Assalamu alaikum ji. Welcome back to another episode of Kahe, Kazi. My guest today was Maya. Maya is an artist. She's also worked in several fields, including marketing and radio, but she would like to be understood or known as a conversationalist. And she feels that she converses with people through her art. We speak about everything from a lack of communication in us as a people in Pakistan, in Karachi, about what plagues the society. Yeah, go ahead. What's up? No, no, it's fine. That was Maya, and about what plagues us as a society in terms of miscommunication, in terms of disparity, or what have you. And we speak about how art can liberate our mindsets and bring us back together. Enjoy. So 3, 2.
One second, let's clear it out.
We can start again.
Alright, yeah, okay.
Let's
Ready?
not. Yeah, okay. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Maya, how you doing, Maya? From
I'm
Pakistan.
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Alhamdulillah.
Maya
Alhamdulillah.
from Pakistan.
From Pakistan. We were just speaking about the diasporic experience and how it anchors you into your identity more definitely.
Yeah.
So let's just start there, and then we'll go where we go. हाँ, stage is yours.
Flow में आए थे.
Flow में आप आ जाएं आप.
So just before
Yeah.
we got here, we were talking about how you want to refer to me as, and I said I don't want to use my last name.
No.
You want to call me Maya from Pakistan.
Yes.
And we were talking about how
Our experiences
That-
in diaspora,
that becomes a part of your defining identity.
Sure,
Maya
I
from
think so.
Pakistan, and it kind of removes all your other
Sunishia, Mahajir Sindhi.
all
that.
your
Yeah.
other sort of separations.
Yeah,
And at
yeah.
this point in time, what do we need the most?
Unity.
Unity, connectedness,
Communication.
relatability.
Sure.
More than anything.
Yes.
If we are able to relate with each other,
Mhm.
we can find something to empathize with.
I would
If
agree.
you can empathize with someone, you can find that acceptance.
जी बिल्कुल and you absolutely don't want to use the word tolerance क्योंकि आप मतलब बीमारी तो होनी कि कोई tolerate करे आपको, because that's another beautiful thing about diaspora ना.
Yeah.
It's very sobering in the sense कि आपको, because the grass is much greener on the other side. आपको लग रहा होता है कि यार कोलालमपुर से ज़्यादा खूबसूरत शहर नहीं है, right? And टोरंटो से ज़्यादा खूबसूरत शहर हो ही नहीं सकता. And बिल्कुल सही बात है, लेकिन वहाँ पहुँच के जब वो बोलते हैं ना बड़े टॉलरेंट हैं आप जैसे लोगों के लिए.
वैसे
फिर
टोरंटो
आपको-
की बात पता नहीं, लेकिन कोलालमपुर है बहुत प्यारा
It's
शहर.
very
One of the most beautiful places, I'd say.
I would concur. I would have to.
Yeah.
In good faith. I
So
would have to.
before I lived there,
Yeah.
I met someone who used to live there.
ठीक
And
है.
I asked them, I said, what's your favorite thing about living in Malaysia? And they said, वहाँ के road बहुत प्यारे हैं.
Hey.
And I was thinking, I'd never been at this point.
No.
And I was thinking, what a ridiculous thing to say about a country,
Yeah.
until I actually got there.
Yes.
And once you're on one of those roads and you're like, man,
This
this
is-
is one of the best roads I've ever been.
It is. It is. And वो वाली बात है ना, people will say to me when I say something like that, people will say to me, they're like, यार तो मतलब पहली बात तो that's a very ridiculous thing to say, right? Roads बहुत अच्छे हैं. You didn't go anywhere, you didn't see anything. How boring. सही है. लेकिन दूसरी चीज़ ये है, people are like, तो फिर टोरंटो के और बेहतर होंगे. Malaysia has one of the best roads in the world,
In the world,
right?
yeah.
They make you want to drive. मैं
They
Malaysia
make
में-
you want to drive,
मैं
yeah.
Malaysia में there was a gym I used to go to that was 2 hours away from my house. I would go there twice a day.
Because the drive is absolutely worth
It's
it.
beautiful.
Forget in the city. Like, we'll find loads of cities with beautiful roads. But one of the most amazing thing about it was कि आप मलेशिया में किसी island पे चले जाएं, किसी जंगल में चले जाएं.
Yes.
You're in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
And you'll find a beautiful road to take you from one destination to the other.
ऐसा ही है. बहुत
रोड
खूबसूरत
पे
है.
और कोई गाड़ी नहीं होगी, लोग नहीं होंगे, बंदर चल रहे होंगे.
हाँ, हाँ.
And you. But it will be there.
Does that not? Let's try and make this philosophical really quick. Now I'm really pushing myself, huh? Pushing my head. Does that not speak to the power of being in diaspora, anyways? Because you're generally you're a traveler. If you leave
Yeah,
your
sure.
roots, right?
Yeah.
You're a traveler, anyways. And then somewhere like Malaysia would call to people like you and I, or even my mom for that matter, right? My mom wouldn't even want to go for a drive. She'd like, I want to go for a walk.
For a walk.
I'm
yeah.
like, there's snakes and shit out here, man. It's tropical. And she's just like, I just want to go out for a walk. And वो अलग बात है कि she would also beat me in a walk.
Yeah.
माशाल्लाह से. लेकिन it's just a beautiful experience, I think, and it's a privilege. Absolutely.
Absolutely
हाँ,
privilege.
इसमें तो कोई शक नहीं है.
Walk wali baat batao, it's not even about their roads or their country. It's just about the restrictions that we have in our country. And when I came back, one of the things that brought me down absolutely was that I can't just walk out of my house to the shop
No, you can't.
and buy a Coca-Cola and sit down and have a drink.
No.
You know, like
No.
just in the open air.
So how are you going to walk? Where are you going to sit down? Nothing.
Nothing. And chances are that even if you do go through all of those motions and be like, okay, I'm making this courage, I'm going to go take that walk and get that Coca-Cola, chances are you get robbed on the way. You know?
Robbed or bitten by a stray dog or whatever. It's just
100 million possibilities.
yes.
We live in Karachi.
Yes, we do. Alhamdulillah.
It is one of the most dangerous cities in the world. Can't forget that.
No, you need to. I would. Chris, if you're listening to this, I would invite.
Who's Chris?
Chris, one of my best friends. He's from Canada. Lived his whole life in.
What up, Chris?
Yeah. आपकी ये वाली camera.
Oh, acha. Hi.
तो जो है वो- so I would often tell Chris, I'd be like, you have to come to Karachi, you know, because I've seen where you live. He's like, no, you're Canadian. I'm like, huh, I am. सही है, ठीक है. वो भी like, I'm also Pakistani, so come back. And he's like, Kazi, do you know where Karachi rates, as in terms of like just crime or danger, or whatever? I'm like, yaar, miss karao, aa jao. But then when I came back, the first few years I was working with a company. And वो ये जो रगड़ा वाला पीरियड होता है उसमें ज़ाहिर है they send you out into the field a lot, right? तो वहाँ पे जो मैंने नोटिस किया या रियलाइज़ किया कि मैं अब गोरा बन चुका हूँ effectively, right? Where I require privileges or luxuries such as running water or just a bathroom.
Just those little things that you get used to from the first world.
Luxuries,
you know?
right?
Like,
Luxuries. Bathroom थोड़ा साफ सुथरा हो. क्यों होना चाहिए? ये productivity कम करता है. तो and the thing is, I don't know if there is a proper way to speak about this because this is something that we've just accepted here in Karachi. कि यार, we are less than. We don't need or deserve clean bathrooms. We shouldn't get proper roads.
You know, that is more of a mindset thing.
Yes.
It's something that has not always been.
No.
It's not something that's natural to us.
No.
But because of the situations that we've been in, because of the years that we have spent the way that we have,
Sure.
it kind of settles into you that there are not very many options out there.
No, and
you know
it breaks
what's really,
you. Yeah.
really surprising is that being someone from Karachi, who is born and brought up, you know, bred like straight up Karachi, when you leave Karachi and you go to Lahore, or you go to Islamabad,
Okay.
आपको उसी तरह की feeling आती है, like the road makes you want to drive.
मैं कभी गया नहीं हूँ.
Oh,
Lahore भी नहीं, Islamabad भी नहीं.
wow,
हाँ.
ठीक है.
Yeah.
I will tell you about this then.
मरी भी नहीं, कहीं नहीं गया हूँ.
I went to Murray last year for the first time as an adult, and I
wow.
was mind blown
Uh-huh.
at what an easy drive it was, what a convenient drive it was.
To Murray.
To Murray. The last time I went before that was in maybe 1996 as a kid, you know?
Okay.
And I remember that being a challenge as a child. You know, that drive up was scary.
Yeah,
the
sure,
roads were
sure.
scary.
Yeah,
like
it's
you
meant to
felt
be,
like
yeah.
you could fall off.
Yes.
When we drove this time, we drove in the night, and it was a 40-minute drive straight. Beautiful, clean road, accessible.
Wow.
And that's something to really, really notice, you know? Like,
Yes.
when I tell people, oh, I lived in Lahore for a year after living in Karachi my whole life, and I made that choice. And people are like, how can you leave Karachi? Karachi's awesome, you know? And it's
Yeah.
no doubt Karachi's awesome. It
Yes.
is alive, it is fresh, it is free, but there are those little privileges.
जी.
Just itna bada fark padta hai in the general situation. You know, like something as little as, okay, when you get out of your house here and you go for a drive, within 10 minutes, I bet your blood pressure goes like, pfft.
Oh, please, yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
And that, you don't think that has an effect on the rest of your day?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Of course it does.
Everything
Yes.
that you go through after
Yes.
that is affected by it.
Yeah, देखो, one of the biggest imperatives. Imperative is a good word. Imperatives that you get from health specialists or doctors or what have you is कि यार आपको walk करनी चाहिए.
Walk करनी चाहिए.
And walk isn't to lose weight. Walk is to regulate your cardiovascular system. तो आप 10 मिनट खाने के बाद walk कर लिया करें. यहाँ पे कुत्तों की फौजें हैं. सही है ना? There's armies.
In your area
In my area, yeah. There's armies and they're just like, oh, you thought
Waiting
this
for
was
you, yeah.
you thought this was a game. I'm like, no, I just want to walk. I'm not, you know. And then they have little puppies, and I don't want anything to happen to them.
Yeah.
But I also don't want them to fuck me up. You know, it's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, I don't
So
want
now,
them.
what I was saying,
Yeah.
we're taking your one example.
Sure.
Same thing happens to me, same thing happens to every single person that goes outside.
Gee.
And how do you think as a sort of whole that affects our community? How we interact with each other, how we interact with our environment, the perspective that we take about our lives and what we deserve. Small change. Bring yourself out of Karachi and put yourself in, say, Lahore, Islamabad, whatever. They have nice roads. You know, there's And one thing that's striking is when you go to the horror Islamabad or like outside Karachi, people can spot you from a mile. आप कराची से आई हैं?
Because you appreciate the fucking road.
You
You're
know,
just
and,
like, "Yaar, ye bada zabardast hai."
and just the interactions that you'll have with strangers, people will smile at you. There is a general sort of calmness. I really wish you'd been so that we could have this conversation.
So
very
here's what's
openly.
interesting, right? I've felt the way you felt, not in terms of the road or anything, but I felt that way in Sakhar and in Samer, even in Hyderabad. This is a Karachi
So
problem.
the feeling that
Yeah.
is, it's a community feeling. It's
Sure.
something that we get from not just who we are,
Sure.
but also the environment that we've been in.
Sure.
And that environment has a very, very drastic effect on how we see ourselves.
How could it not? How could it not, right?
You know, there's this thing, I don't know if it's even real, but there's this little quote on the internet. If you put a shark in a fish tank, it grows 8 inches. But if you put a shark in an ocean,
Yeah.
the same shark will grow 8 feet.
I hope that's not
And,
true.
and if you know, if you look at sharks,
Yeah.
you get sharks in this size.
You do.
You do get sharks in
You
that
do,
size.
yeah.
And if you look at aquarium sharks, that's actually not incorrect.
No, I've seen small
You know,
sharks. I've
so-
seen tiny sharks, yeah.
So that effect that your environment has on you,
Yeah.
that what you're saying, like as Karachiites,
Yeah.
कि हमें, you know, like
Yeah.
the way we function,
Yeah.
has a lot to do with what we've gone through. You know?
Yeah. How could I
हम
disagree?
बाहर जाते हैं,
Nahi,
if you
nahi.
smile at someone, they're so threatened by it,
Yeah.
they will hide away.
Sure.
You know, like
Or-
I've gone
yeah.
outside and like smiled at aunties and like they've just like,
नहीं आपका तो दूसरा मसला है ना look at you look a little different
I didn't
right?
always look this different.
But you're not supposed to look like this as a girl, right?
But that's what I'm saying. I
Yeah.
haven't always looked like this. I just started looking like
So
this.
you-
I'm having a bloom.
Yeah, okay, yeah, inshallah. You finally said fuck it, like because you know that's what it is, right? Because you keep thinking you're like, agar main kuch,
No. I'm gonna take that back. I didn't finally say fuck it.
always been
That's
saying
not
fuck
not
it.
what it is.
Okay.
It's okay. I don't know what you believe in, but in the way I see life,
Mhm.
in your single lifetime, you go through sort of these. You come alive and you die. You go through many
Cycles.
evolutions. Yeah.
Cycles.
There's death and resurrection cycles.
Sure,
You
okay,
know, and
yeah.
every time you're born as sort of reborn
Sure.
as an upgraded version of yourself.
I would have to concur.
And that
yeah.
changes how you speak, how you eat, how you interact with people,
Mhm.
and how you look.
Fair enough.
So for me, I'm actually going through one of those. That's why I look like this.
You're
right
looking like this now.
Yeah.
No, but that's what it is. Now, when you're brought up, right, especially in these environments, more so as a woman, but even as a guy, you're just like, yaar, if you were just good enough,
Yeah.
if you just deserved it or were worth it, people would be good to you. That's bullshit. They're never going to be, because it's in
Yeah.
them to not be good to you. आप जैसे भी हो ना, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह आप ठीक ही हो.
हाँ.
मतलब generally बोल रहा हूँ, सब अच्छे ही होते हैं. And also what you just said about cycles. So classic existentialism में there are two concepts. There's transcendence, there's facticity. Right? These are beautiful concepts because facticity means कि अगर आपने कुछ भी किया है ना, so I don't know about you, but I've done some very colorful things in my life. Not things that I'm proud of.
There's a reason why we're here to have this conversation.
Right?
You've been through something. That's why you have something to say. you know?
I've been through. I've put people through some stupid shit. Again, so that's facticity, right? There's nothing and nobody who can tell me कि ये नहीं की, or who I can convince कि ये मैंने नहीं किया था, because that would be incorrect factually,
Yeah.
right? That's not what or who. That's not existence, right? That's La La Land, fairy tale, whatever,
Yeah.
right? But also transcendence then, कि I am not that person who did those things. I am not the person
Yeah.
who went to bed yesterday. So yeah, तो इसका जो temporal, the temporal sense in which you take that transcendence concept will depend on how you want to take it, right? So you could be
Right,
like, I'm not the person who I was last month. True. What about the things
No,
that I
you're
did?
not even the person you were a few minutes ago.
Minutes ago,
You've been
yeah.
changed
Yes,
already.
yes.
Because like there's
Yes.
something that has happened. You've been affected by an experience, and
Yes.
we don't realize how little experiences have ginormous impacts on us.
They
you know,
absolutely
like
do.
something. Okay, this is an interesting
Okay,
one.
yeah.
Not a lot of people understand this idea, but have you questioned the concept of karmic inheritance?
Yes.
Right? So there is this, and when I talk about this, people are like, what do you mean karmic inheritance? How do you inherit karma? You know, like, how can you inherit experience from your ancestors?
Histories of
But
violence. That's how.
That's one, that's
Yeah.
one perspective. of it.
Yeah.
But just in like a very small process format, if you look at it, if I throw something at you right now and it will hit you, right?
It'll
Your-
bounce back because I'm strong.
Your body will record that experience, and that goes into your physical makeup. So when you have children, that's passed through your genetic makeup, that experience.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. So that's
And that
yeah.
is largely how sort of karmic inheritance works. You know, like, oh, what my forefathers and ancestors did, it does have an effect on who I am today.
Yeah, how could it not?
100%. But you'd be surprised. A lot of people don't like that idea.
Acha,
Or cannot understand that idea.
and so here's what's beautiful, right? So what you're talking about bleeds into psychosomatic psychology and also epigenetics, right?
Yeah.
But here's what's interesting, right? So people, they're like, yaar, nahi, ye Maya aapne fazul baat bol di. Fair enough.
No problem.
हाँ, मैंने फजूल बात
No
बोल दी ना.
problem.
What is your substitute for this theory? Blank. Nothing.
Not
Right?
even. I don't even want a substitute.
No, but-
because see, with these things, when you go into it and you start really understanding
Sure.
the depths of these concepts, you understand that our individual experiences are made of everything that we've been through,
Agreed.
and the perspective that you have coming to that conversation
Mm-hmm.
is going to be highly dependent on every one of those experiences. So for me to expect that you'll be able to understand something that I'm saying based on my experiences, it's ridiculous. You know? And until you've gone through similar experiences where you can question those things,
Sure.
I'm not going to try to force it on you.
नहीं देखो यहाँ पे आप you're being very very nice, but I would have to disagree, right? Because here's what it is, right? There are सही है, आपने बिल्कुल सही बोला. Experiences are subjective and they shape so much of who you are. How could you really expect me, you know? But at the same time, there are things that are objectively true.
Sure.
And there are methods or mediums of delivery where you can pretty much formulate everything in that way.
Yeah.
Right? Where you're not saying maan lo, you're saying entertain the thought. And then
Consider
reject
it.
it and
Yeah.
reject it. Reject the thought, but reject it properly. Right?
Reject it and replace it.
Or don't even replace it. Don't even replace it. Replace भी ना करो, लेकिन reject it properly in the sense कि आपने उसको देखा, आपने बोला अच्छा ठीक है ये thought है. Forget that Maya said it and forget that I'm Kazi and I am the sort of person who hates someone like Maya.
Take it
Right?
for what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Objectively, right? तो मेरे ख्याल में, and I say this ad nauseum, right? The impetus for this podcast / talk show was / talk show.
See, we like accuracy language.
Absolutely we do, right? Was the fact that more often than not, I would just hope and wish and pray that we go to some mode of Socratic dialogue. कि यार अगर कोई idea जिसको मैं defend नहीं कर सकता हूँ ना, I should at least learn how to defend it.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, there are things...
Would you say at least learn how to defend it?
How to defend
Okay.
it. Right? At least learn how to... जैसे आप मुझे बोल रहे हो, Kazi, why do you flip a tire? It seems like the stupidest thing in the world, right? It's 700 pounds. You're not 700 pounds.
Yeah.
Why are you flipping this tire? It seems like it hurts a lot. It does, Maya. It hurts a lot. Why are you doing it? Okay, now that's a question, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that you're not forming an erroneous argument. So what you're not saying, you're not launching an ad hominem attack. Kazi, तुम्हारी शक्ल देखिए, तुम टायर नहीं उठा सकते हो. That's what most people do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with my shakal, right? It has to do with the fact that this action doesn't make sense to you. Okay, is this an exercise? Why can't you just go do push-ups like normal people?
This is an action that from your experiences does not make sense to you.
Yes, right? Exactly.
Because there's something that I know because of which I'm doing this.
Exactly.
That you don't know. about.
Exactly.
So how about take that step?
Yeah.
Come around.
Yeah.
Use some empathy.
Sure, yes.
To understand.
Empathy is a beautiful thing, right? But at the same time, I need to present it to you in an objective way. I can't be like, if you were me, you would understand. That's bullshit. You can never be me.
Then
you know?
that's a huge thing that I think we're collectively suffering from.
Bilkul.
There is this, and this
Those are
in
the same
Karachi more than everything, more than
Why are
a
we
lot of
shitting on
places.
Karachi?
We're not, but we are here.
Yes,
And
we
this
are.
is the context that we have.
Yes.
And these are the, we're just talking about our experiences make us
we are.
into
Yeah.
how we perceive the world.
Yes.
So अगर हम कराची के हैं, हम कराची में रहते हैं, हमारे कराची के experiences हैं, तो हमारा perspective यहीं से आएगा ना.
ये बात सही है. बड़ी अच्छी आपने अच्छा दिया. Yes, I like it. Yes.
So what were we talking about? Forgot completely.
I'm sorry.
It's called humanness.
No, it is. But I was telling you, we were speaking about how we need to present things to each other objectively, right?
Right.
Yeah, and you were like, ये हम collectively we're suffering from this.
Yeah. And उसमें collectively हम उसमें suffer करते हैं because our defense has gotten so high.
Yes.
And our communication skills are at an all-time low, where we're using words interchangeably.
Sure.
There's lack of accuracy in our language. So there's
Yes.
a lack of accuracy in what I'm sharing with you or
Yes.
what you're understanding from what I'm sharing, you know?
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, collectively, this is something that is affecting us because it's not something that if I start doing differently, it'll change the whole situation. But it's something that if we can all start doing differently, even if forget doing differently, if we can even be curious enough about it.
Agreed.
To question it.
Sure.
You know, and
Sure.
that would actually be the best option. Because if we're individually questioning it with curiosity, then we're each using our individual sort of experience to bring forward a perspective, and then we have a collective of perspectives.
Yeah, exactly. We do.
And that collection of perspectives is in the end what can help us to find a lot of empathy.
Sure.
Which is severely lacking, I would say.
बहुत ज़रूरी है.
Because of which we have so much defense. अगर मुझे थोड़ा सा भी, if I can come around and walk in your shoes and understand from your perspective, I don't need to defend myself.
No.
I don't need to reject what you're saying.
No. Yeah, that's
And that's what it comes down to. If we can effectively communicate with each other. If I can put forward, if say like I'm unsettled as a person, if I can put that forward in a gentle enough, non-attacking sort of manner and just present it that, hey, you know what, I'm a person, these are my needs, and I'm uncomfortable. And then it becomes on the other person to actually respond to that. But if I'm presenting it incorrectly, if I just come here and I start bawling my eyes out and, you know, swearing and screaming and like, everything sucks, it changes a lot how you're going to respond.
Of course,
to it.
of course. So antagonism is a very serious thing, or I think for useful communication.
Kazi, मोटी-मोटी
Antagonism क्या मतलब? Antagonism, यार, मतलब
like that's the thing.
Perceived
we
aggression.
We want to be accurate in our language. Let's make it simple at least, you know.
So perceived aggression, right? Perceived aggression, right? So that's one thing I have to avoid, right? And आप सोचो, as people, especially living in the kind of high stress environment that we exist in, we're all taught to posture.
When we're living in a high-stress environment, what happens? We're living in survival mode.
Exactly.
And what are you doing? Surviving? Surviving is, I gotta protect myself.
Exactly. Yes. As a female especially, but even as anyone, but especially as a female, कभी भी आपको ये नहीं सिखाया जाएगा कि आप हंस के बात करें. कोई अगर stranger आ जाता है, माया ये चीज़ चाहिए, the worst thing you can do is
you're gonna get yourself in trouble.
Yes,
you're asking for trouble.
yes,
There's a lot
right?
of that, and
they teach you that.
There's another version of this. It's like, oh, if someone is, you know, being badtameez with you, don't make a scene out of it.
No.
You know, and that's a really, really awful way of teaching an entire generation of human beings to not say what's good for you, not stand up for what you believe in.
अच्छा.
You know?
इसमें एक मुझे बात याद आई. We want to speak about. I want to speak about the problem with attitudes surrounding health in general, psychological health in particular. But इससे मुझे एक बात याद आई.
Now we're in my area.
Yeah, of course, of course. So I'm training to be a therapist, inshallah.
Oh, inshallah. I'm not I can't say I'm training to be a therapist or I have a psychology background, but I'm a hobbyist. I like to read, you know?
I think hobbyists.
I'm a person with pain, so you teach yourself how to self-heal. And that's curiosity.
Okay, so that's beautiful that you brought that up, but I just have to get this out of my system. Let's
do it.
So, you're speaking about language and what you're taught, right? So I was talking to this friend of mine, and she was talking about how in her childhood, एक बार ऐसा हुआ था where there was a person who was being inappropriate with her. He was much older, as they almost always are. He was part of the extended family, as they so often are. Allah rahim kare har kisi ke upar.
Do you know how common that is?
The most common, actually.
In a group of 3 people, 2 will tell you the same story.
Exactly, right? And she's like, she caused a scene. I'm like, phenomenal. She was 9 years old. I'm like, no wonder you're a badass now. You always were, right?
You gotta start young.
Yeah,
you gotta establish yourself.
You have to practice, right? Practice. And she's like, lekin, I didn't have the words. I'm like, well, that's a societal problem, right? So she's like, what she did was she caused a scene, and she's like, just tell so and so to stay away from me. She called all the elders of the family, right? And she's like, but I didn't have words. I literally could not tell them what he was actually doing, right? Collectively, we're taught to ignore this. Sexual harassment, he was harassing me.
Yeah.
Those are the words, right? And it needs to be taken seriously. And it needs to also be taken, like you said, accuracy of language. It's not rape. Yeah. It's not, right? But it's also not nothing. It's also not
okay.
No, it's not harmless fun. It's not like men do that.
It's not a joke.
No.
It's not a game.
No.
And
no, it's not. It's just not okay. It's not all right? And usme ye कि men will be men, boys will be boys. What? No.
Who perpetuated that idea? And why are we still perpetuating it? Is the question we should be asking.
यार देखो उसमें जो है ना मैं ख़वातीन और हज़रात दोनों को कसूरवार ठहराता हूँ.
I completely agree with you. Yeah. But ladies just as much as the gentlemen. Because when when as a girl, if you go through something and you go and you tell the women in your house, they might tell you, oh, don't say anything.
Izzat bachao.
Izzat bachao.
Izzat
Apni
bachao.
izzat ko
हाँ,
ख्याल रखना.
हाँ.
You know, that's something
Yeah, but
real.
the other guy attacked the izzat. If there is such a concept and you want to play with those archaic rules, आपकी मर्जी है. लेकिन who am I to tell you, right? लेकिन ये है कि
Hey, you're not telling me. I'm on your side,
yeah,
man.
exactly, right? No, who am I to tell anyone, right? But ये है कि इज्जत अगर बचानी भी है, तो जिस मनहूस ने अटैक किया था उसको मारो.
भाई इस situation में तो सबसे पहले let's define what the hell is izzat. What is izzat? Or izzat किसकी responsibility है? कौन रख रहा है? Is izzat the responsibility of a 9-year-old child?
No.
In the whole family?
मुआशरे की.
The respect is the responsibility of a 9-year-old child?
Yeah, देखो. I'll tell you, and this might.
I don't even want to talk about
No,
this. You know what I mean?
this might trigger you, right? But so the Ali Zafar Misha thing happened, right? And for the long, no, you don't want to talk about it? No. But this is a beautiful realization that I came to.
इस बात पे बात करेंगे तो बहुत ज़्यादा controversy
नहीं, अल्लाह खैर करेगा, अल्लाह खैर करेगा. But just paradigm shifting in this sense, right? So throughout, I was on the fence. I was like, yaar, dekho, I don't know what happened. That's it.
Yeah.
That was what my stance was, right? And people were speaking ill of Ali Zafar, right? And I had no sympathy for that. Not because I don't like him. Misha Shafi and Ali Zafar, to me, I don't know either one of them.
They're strangers.
Yeah, they are, right? And I couldn't make any assumptions about them. But I was like, ye mard hai. Koi issue nahi hai. Right? But Misha Shafi ke bare mein, people were saying quite a few horrible things, right?
Oh, yeah.
And wonderful. Bilkul
The internet is unforgiving.
and undefeated, unfortunately, right? So
Undefeated, there's no way. How can you defeat the power of the people?
there are ways. China found some. लेकिन ये है कि that's what I'm saying. What do you want me to say, right?
Dangerous बातें कर रहे हो.
लेकिन जो है वो and then I was just, but I was still conflicted. I was like, नहीं भाई, मैं जो है ना equality रखूंगा यहाँ पे, और अगर मैं अली ज़फ़र को नहीं जानता हूँ and I don't feel bad about him, then I am going to be apathetic towards Misha Shafi as well, right?
You want to be neutral.
हाँ नहीं, because I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
That's it, right? Courts में है ना, I need to have faith in that.
Yeah.
I need to have faith in something.
In the system.
हाँ, कि यार ये कुछ कर लेंगे system. बहरहाल तो
But वो भी हमारे experiences से थोड़ा सा मुश्किल है उस system पे
जी
trust
बिल्कुल.
करना, you know, because like we've seen so many times that we trusted the system and the system let us down.
Absolutely.
There were moments where we all knew the damn truth,
Mhm.
and still we could see that we were being lied to.
वही ना, तो उसमें then Misha Shafi, and I don't know if this is, again, this is probably a genius marketeer or what have you at work, right? But then she came out with these songs, right? And I looked at her, and obviously concepts of izzat were thrown around, all those things, right? And I look at her and she sings this song. I start bawling my eyes out. I'm like, I fucking owe you respect because you're a person. And my sisters are like, yaar, ye ab pagal ho gaya hai. All those kicks he took to the head.
It's finally kicking in.
Finally kicking in. And he's got crazy. But I got so upset. I'm like, yaar, dekho na. Yes, I'm neutral, right? And I would like to be.
Yeah.
But I don't think I have the privilege of being neutral anymore. Because being neutral is a privilege as well, right?
Yeah.
जब लोग माजरत के साथ, and they're going to do such stupid shit and put people in corners, then I think, क्या बोलते हैं, when I don't know, when injustice becomes law, rebellion becomes duty, right? I would love to sit back and be like, yeah, you sort this shit out, has nothing to do with me, just don't hurt each other.
But that is a privilege too.
That's a privilege, right? And maybe I don't have that privilege anymore, right? So again, I don't know who did what. Allah khair करे, लेकिन जिसने गुनाह किया है उसको उसका मिलेगा.
हाँ, हिसाब एंड में होगा.
हाँ, हिसाब एंड में होगा, इसमें कोई शक नहीं है. But everyone else, जिसका ना सर ना पैर है, जिसका कोई जाए नहीं, everyone who doesn't have a horse in the race. I was going to say race in the horse. Horse in the race. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You know, and stop being disrespectful. She's still a person. What the fuck is wrong with you? Bad.
You know, that's a very interesting point you brought up, actually. I would like to come back to this. Like, this man-woman gender thing, you know? If we start taking out this horrible clash of man versus woman, and we start seeing people as people, humans,
Yes.
how does that change our society? How does that change how we interact with the world?
Well,
How does that change how we perceive the world, you know? Being a girl, when you, as a woman,
yes.
when I go outside and I know where my, you know, what my identity is, where I stand with myself. But there are certain rules that you're given to being a woman. you know?
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you're shackled into those rules and you go outside into the world, you're going outside with a certain limitation on yourself, you know?
Yes.
I'm not as strong.
No.
I'm not as accepted.
No.
I'm not as confident.
No.
I'm not as, my opinion doesn't matter as much.
You're not wanted.
I'm not wanted. I won't be heard.
No.
And being a woman
Mhm.
who rejects this, like, feminist and, anti-feminist,
Khawateen.
whatever.
Uh,
I'm going to talk about myself.
Yeah,
I can't represent all the women
No,
here.
no.
But for me, I've lived that way. Like, I'm a person. When you go to work, I'm not a man or a woman. I'm a professional.
Inshallah, yeah.
You know?
Absolutely, yeah.
When I come to the studio, I'm not a man or a woman. I'm an artist.
Mhm.
When I go outside to talk to you, I'm not a man or a woman. I'm a conversationalist.
Sure.
And those are the things we're presenting in those moments.
Mhm.
So in those moments, why do you need to bring up and highlight this? Oh, I'm a woman conversationalist, or I'm a female artist.
You
If
don't.
we
Mhm.
started this conversation with our need for unity, connectedness, relatability.
Mhm.
Why are we the people creating more separations?
So I have theories.
So coming back to this Misha Shafi Ali
Yeah,
Zafar
yeah,
conversation, whenever I've looked at this, and I was watching this just like you, from the outside,
Yeah.
that's one thing that you come to, like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take my silence privilege and not say anything. But that doesn't mean that you don't have an opinion,
No, of course not.
right?
Yes.
That's just that you're not sharing your opinion.
Exactly, yeah.
But when you look at that situation, abhi hum baat kar rahe the respect and, Ali Zafar and slandering, whatever, if you remove the gender from this is just one person that's crossed another person, and then let's talk about this conversation. Does that change how you think about it?
Alhamdulillah, no.
No.
No. I don't.
For you, maybe
Yeah,
not. But
alhamdulillah,
for a
no,
lot of
no.
people,
Yeah.
that would.
Yes, of
Because
course.
अगर वो औरत है तो ऐसे क्यों कर सकती है?
Yeah.
अगर वो आदमी हो कैसे क्यों कर सकता है?
Yeah.
But if you remove the आदमी and the औरत,
Yeah.
वो इंसान हो कैसे क्यों कर सकता है? वो इंसान हो के how can you respond to that?
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
really does change that conversation.
For a lot of people, I'm sure it must.
What is it?
must.
What is the simplest thing we did? We removed one separation and brought unity to it. That
That's
we're
it.
not man and woman. We are humans first.
That's it.
We're people.
That's it.
You know?
That's it. Yeah.
And going back to what we were talking about just a second ago
Yeah,
about
yeah.
like vocabulary
Mhm.
and language. That was really nice.
What was?
I appreciate that you brought that up, that story
Oh, yeah.
about not having words,
Yeah.
There are so many things around us that bother so many of us. Silence privilege, we can use it, but that doesn't mean we don't have opinions.
Mhm.
But a lot of times when we have opinions, we don't have the correct vocabulary to come out to present ourselves true to ourselves.
Sure.
I have the vocabulary, but it's not going to say what I need to say.
And you imported it. Sometimes you import that vocabulary. कहीं से भी आई हुई होती है ना वो तो. Even India की vocabulary cannot apply to our experience because we're here in Karachi ना. मतलब आप सोचो ना जैसे ये जब Me Too movement हुई थी, हो रही है in fact, right? Think about where it started.
Me Too is not, it's a movement, now it's a part of how we see the world.
Absolutely, it needs to be, right?
Thankfully.
Alhamdulillah, right? But who started it? A minority, a woman from a minority group who has been
Put down.
ostracized, put down, subjugated, in separated in every possible way, alienated in every possible way. उन्होंने ये शुरू की थी. वहाँ पे भी men and women of privilege did hijack the movement, right? Came here. Same thing, I would argue, कि it was doing some prolific things, that movement, right? Because it was about, वही वाली बात है ना, time's up. Why did so many people resonate with that? यार औरतों का दिमाग खराब होता है. Acha. Let me school you in philosophy for a minute now. That's a universally quantified statement, right? For everything X, for everything that is a woman, uska dimag kharab hota hai. Do you know how to disprove that argument? Find one. Find one woman jiska dimag kharab nahi hota hai. I know 3. I have 2 sisters and a mom. Alhamdulillah. So what the fuck are you saying? Why would you say something like that?
तुम्हारी अम्मी सुन के बोलेंगी तुम क्यों मेरे आगे गालियां
गालियां मुझे डांट पड़ेगी वो. I'm sorry. Just I don't know. Allah रहम करे. But that's what I'm saying, right? So it's a universally quantified statement. But Behral, why do you think so many people resonated with that, right? With the Me Too movement. ठीक है.
It gave, I think, in my humble opinion, it was able to resonate with because for the first time, a conversation had been opened up that was always taboo.
Yes.
Sexual harassment, sexual abuse, any kind of harassment, bullying even, has just been put under the covers and under the covers and under the covers.
Yes.
And not just in our culture, not just in our society, but all over the world. Even in the most liberated societies like where Time's Up came out from in the first place.
Yeah.
But there's this power dynamic in the world.
Sure.
There's a system that runs. And there's a reason why certain things are not talked about, because they mess with that system.
Agreed.
So for something like Time's Up or Me Too to come out as a movement, every person until that point that felt like, I'm never going to get justice for what has happened to me, I'm never even going to be able to say what has happened to me,
Exactly.
finally got that opportunity to say, hey, me
Yeah.
too.
Just
And without
validation,
having to
yeah.
tell a story, without having simple two words,
yeah.
me too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Did it happen to you? Yeah, me too.
Yeah. That's it.
Who did it happen to? Me
Me
too.
too. That's it. Yeah.
It was made simple. It was a very, very small way of giving power to an entire sort of group of people that had been shoved under the carpet and said, shh, do not say a word.
Yet
We do not want to hear from
the
you.
loves, no, the word that describes this most accurately, what those people are facing, abhi bhi khawateen yahan pe face kar rahi hain, because I am not happy with the direction that it's taken in
Yo,
Pakistan.
we don't even get to know half of it.
No, exactly, right?
Forget
exactly.
half of we don't even get to know 90% of it.
No, we don't.
You know?
No, we don't.
The fact that something like this ever came up here came from a person like Misha Shafi.
Yeah.
Misha is not just, top of the line musician, artist, well known in the industry. Misha is also a badass babe.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine one of our sweeter, softer ARY drama girls coming up and saying, hey, this happened to me? We would not even hear it.
No.
You
no,
know?
No.
But because of the fact that it was someone like Misha Shafi who stood up and said, hey, you know what? I have a platform. I'm going to say something. That's maybe the only reason it ever came up.
Well, देखो वही वाली बात है, the word is disenfranchised, right? Women or minority groups generally are disenfranchised.
Wait, are you calling women a minority group? Because that's inaccurate as fuck.
No. They're treated like a minority group, right? And where it came from, I beg your pardon. So where it came from was a black lady. She came up with the Me Too movement. Those people were वो ब्लैक होने के तहत पे तो वैसे ही वो सब ह्यूमन होते हैं, आपको पता है. लेकिन उसके ऊपर they were also disenfranchised. And this, how you disenfranchise a person is you make them you take their humanity away from them, right? So you're subhuman. You don't have agency. Like for instance, यार मेरा ये belief है, या मेरी ये ज़बान है, या मेरा ये मेरे बच्चे हैं, नहीं है आपके. The state has a right over whatever, what have you, right? So to then have those women, have those people just come up and be like, yaar dekho, we suffered, right? It was, well, indignation doesn't even begin to cover it, right? But it was injustice.
Yeah.
It was unfair, abhorrent. Jo love mere paas to nahi hai. Say na, maybe you can open up a dictionary, right? But like just validation. कि यार ठीक है ना, you take your time. And maybe पूरी जिंदगी में आप heal नहीं कर सको, that's fine.
But believe it or not, validation is the number one step to healing with yourself.
Of course.
Most of the things that most of us are carrying around unhealed is because we've never actually accepted that. जो आपको कोई, अगर आपके दिल में कोई इतना बड़ा pain you've been carrying around and you haven't cried about it, if someone else comes and tells you, I'm sorry for what's happening to you, you will break down and bawl your eyes out because now you've been validated for a second. And this is one of those things that we're not getting to see around us, where people are not validating themselves, where people are not validating their own pain.
Achha, here's what's interesting, right? Psychodynamic theory, this is, मेरे ख्याल में फ्रॉइड, अपने फ्रॉइड थे, आपको पता है, लियारी में रहते थे.
Freud.
तो फ्रॉइड भाई जो थे, he came up with, I think he was one of the progenitors of that theory. लेकिन उसमें there is this concept of a primary wounding, right? When you were hurt as a kid or so on and so forth, and you can.
I read it as an adult.
No shit, right? But you can get wounded whenever. But I think one of the most beautiful concepts for me is that that wound never heals. Right? So one of the biggest problems, one of the biggest societal issues I find is that even if we acknowledge, like you're like, okay, Kazi, I acknowledge that you've been hurt. Now is the time to heal. There is no healing.
No.
But I just have to live with this pain, right? So the only thing, pretty much the only thing you can do is कि हाँ यार ये हुआ तो गलत ना, छोड़ दो बस. That's it. That's all you had to do. Now fix the fucking system. now fix everything that messed it up.
I slightly disagree with that. Because I believed in that system for a long time. And it did, so when you're young and you start discovering things about yourself and what hurts you,
Sure.
you get really curious. I don't know about other people. I got really curious. For me, it was, why is this happening?
Yeah.
What is happening? Where did it come from? What do I do with it now?
No, I was a man. I didn't get hurt.
So-
man shit. No one gets hurt.
Everybody
no
gets hurt, but it's hard to accept that.
No feelings.
So that part I will disagree with, because for a long time when I kept that perspective that, we need to fix the system.
Yeah.
I've accepted that I've been hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and I accept it, and I'm sitting with this pain.
Yeah.
But the system needs to change.
Yes.
That's a very, very good way of taking the power out of yourself and putting it into the system that has fucked you up in the first place.
Interesting.
So after 10 years of just questioning what's happening, what is this, how is it, recently, not very long ago, maybe 3, 4, 5 years, something absolutely terrifying happened in my life. And it brings you to that place where you're just desperate for an answer. And at that time, you turn to two ways. You turn to your God,
Yes, of course.
and you turn inside.
Yes.
And that's where your power is.
Yes,
When you start recognizing that your power to heal is inside, that there is no wound that is gonna if you leave a wound open, what happens? It gets
bleeds, yeah.
infected.
Yeah,
It gets infected and it takes over, becomes septic. It'll kill you. So if you leave these wounds unhealed, what do? They affect everything that you're doing as an
Yes,
adult.
of
And
course.
one of those things that I learned in this process was taking that power from the system and putting it back inside yourself, and understanding that every little action, word, ripple, intention that comes from me not only makes a difference to me, but to everything that I'm connected to. And that is everything.
That is everything.
And if you think about everything is connected, this is a beautiful concept, because it connects you back to your power source. It connects you inwards. It connects you to everything you know, which means that anything that is good you can feed from,
Yes.
and anything that is not good you can release into. We often, abhi hum thodi der pehle baat karte, one of the most detrimental things to your health is to go outside and have a walk.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What do you do when you go outside and have a walk? You interact with nature, you interact with real things, and what does that do? It does something inside you. When you come
Replenishes you
back.
somehow,
It
yeah.
replenishes you.
Yeah,
It changes your body chemicals, it changes your body hormones, it changes the way you're breathing,
Sure.
it changes the way you're breathing, it changes the way you're thinking. Straight.
Yeah. Yeah,
Breath
yeah.
is with your consciousness,
Of
right?
course. Of course.
But until we become conscious of that power within,
Mhm.
without saying, I've accepted it, it's my wounding,
Mhm.
and now the system needs to change.
अच्छा
You
ठीक है ठीक है So maybe I'll explain
वो
my
तो
view a little more.
आपने वहीं पे सारा अपनी healing तबाह कर दी.
आप बिल्कुल सही बोल रहे हो आप I cannot disagree with you in good faith because you're not wrong right or to me at least you're not
If I'm wrong, you can tell me. I can graciously accept
no,
that,
of
because
course,
that's how
but-
we open a
but-
conversation.
Yeah, but I can't disprove what you're saying, right? What I can say is this. What I meant was कि once you become cognizant of the wound, then you start. So how I meant that it will never be healed is that it'll never stop affecting you. Say, it'll never stop affecting you. You'll become a different person, obviously, because now you know what it is, right? So, for instance, if I have a proclivity to respond violently to the color black, ek main misal de raha hu, right? I need to know where that comes from. Because before, I was like a bull who saw red, right? Because वही वाली scene है ना, तो ठीक है. Now I know where that comes from. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि I will now not have the proclivity. That's never going to go away. That's what I meant, that the wound will never be healed. That'll never go away,
Fair
right?
enough. Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, but I'll be like, no, Kazi. It's not that Maya's a bad person for wearing black. It's something that's coming from your
From
childhood.
you, yeah.
And okay, so now I'm calm. बहरहाल मुआशरे को तो मुआशरा तो फिर I suppose we can just agree to disagree. मुआशरे को तो change होना पड़ेगा. It needs to get its shit together.
Muashra tab change hoga when enough of us can have this curiosity within ourselves.
हाँ,
When
inshallah.
we stop putting this responsibility and power of healing in the muashra,
Yeah, sure.
and actually start taking that responsibility.
Yeah.
If I'm doing it, you're doing it, everybody in this house is doing it,
Yeah.
this community now is healed. Is that correct or no?
Yes.
Or at least in the process of healing?
So cognizant. See, cognizant I think is the end state. Healing जो है ना, because
Healing to aapka, it's a way of living. It's a,
sure.
when you, because see, it's not that any of us grew into adults without being hurt.
No, of course not.
To different degrees of wounding, yeah. But
Yeah.
we're all wounded by the time we're adults.
Yeah.
So there's no reason any of us should avoid becoming conscious of it.
Yeah, देखो, I think it's the most important thing. I honestly think लोग जो हैं, they make such big decisions. वो शादी कर लेते हैं, बच्चे पैदा कर लेते हैं, but they don't realize what's hurting them. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
It's you've been told, oh, ye karna, and you say, okay, you know what?
Yeah.
I've been told.
Yeah.
I don't need to think for myself.
Yeah.
I don't need my own power. So you put it aside.
अच्छा पता है क्या?
शादी कर रहे हैं, बच्चे कर रहे हैं, स्कूल जा रहे हैं, यूनिवर्सिटी जा रहे हैं.
Yeah, but
What purpose does it serve to you as a human being?
I'll tell you, right? So classic existentialist philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre or Camus, they were actually like, you would do that because it's easier. It's so difficult to actually realize your existential responsibility. You mean everything's on me. Everything's on you. You mean fucking everything? Everything's on you. हर चीज़ की responsibility. नहीं यार, वो माया ने मुझे बोला ना, मैं तो तभी मतलब मैं तो नहीं, मैं तो गाने नहीं गाता, मैं तो बहुत अच्छा बच्चा हूँ. नहीं. Everything's on you. यार नहीं, वो लड़की जो थी ना, वो कपड़े ऐसे पहन के बैठी थी, नहीं तो मैं तो बहुत एक तमीज़ और तहजीब वाले ख़ानदान से आता हूँ. No. Everything's on you.
Yeah.
Right? That's how you...
That's something that you can fall into
Yeah.
very easily, even as yourself. You know,
Sure.
as myself, when I'm on my consciousness journey of healing and things, there are days where I'll be like, oh my God, why is it all on me? You know, like, one of the things that I have learned so much from is these Instagram psychiatrists.
Sure.
The Instagram healers, you know,
Sure,
the ones
yeah.
that are empowering you. They're just giving you tools to learn from.
Sure,
Have
okay,
you come
yeah.
across any of these?
I have...
You must have heard maybe Dr. Nicole LePera. She got famous really fast recently.
I have thoughts, but please.
Yeah. So, you know, one of those things when you, and like, I follow these pages. So
Of
for
course.
me, like when I'm going through my story on a day and I've seen like 8 of these in a row saying, oh, you know, okay, if you're in pain, then you need to question yourself. If someone is not behaving with you correctly, you need to question yourself. And at the end of that, you're like, I'm responsible for everything, and it buries you in that.
Yeah.
But that's again where your consciousness kicks in.
Yes.
That's where you need to recognize that I'm human.
Yes.
That I am not just this mind, but I am also body and spirit.
Yes.
That regardless of how much responsibility I have, it is still my life to live, which which gives me choices to make. So how much of that responsibility and which moment I need to take, that's where your sort of intelligence should be used.
Yes.
Like, take abhi is moment mein I am taking responsibility for this, and this.
Yes.
But in another moment where agar you're being badtamiz, well, I'm not going to take responsibility for that.
Of course not.
You know, that's a
Right.
choice you're making.
Sure.
But to be able to understand these things and then to respond to them, vocabulary is absolutely detrimental. Because this conversation that we're having, would we be able to have this conversation without the correct words for it? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Right?
No.
So when we're talking about healing and we're talking about our community and our environment and the things that make us and, you know, what we're made of and what we're turning into and how we're behaving, I think we really need to sort of take a step back from the muashra, from the system, from society, and first check in ourselves. What am I putting out and what am I taking back from the world? And is there balance in that? You know?
Sure, yeah. No, that'd
what
be very
I'm
nice,
putting
yeah.
out, is that what I want to encourage in the world? Is that what I want to see? And that's when you start taking on that sort of responsibility from that perspective. Okay, my responsibility is me, but I do have an effect in the outside world. Then it changes how you're looking at it.
Agreed. Again, I don't think in good faith. वही वाली बात है ना, I'm really trying to disagree. I'm never not like देखो.
यार सही बात कर रही है, कैसे disagree करोगे?
But that's what I'm saying ना कि so people are in love with either being a conformist or a contrarian, right? But they misunderstand what a contrarian is. So they're like, a contrarian is someone who will always disagree. That's a conformist of a different kind.
Yeah.
That's not a contrarian, right? I'm trying logically to at least jitni logic mujhe aati hai to find कि यार नहीं तो is there is there a problem somewhere in this argument? I can't find one. That's why I'm not disagreeing with you. It's not that matlab
there is a problem, I'll tell you what.
Okay.
It takes a lot of fucking courage.
Of course.
And
of course.
Courage you find in yourself when you can be entirely honest about who you are.
Sure.
About what I want, about what I accept, what I don't accept, what I'm willing to do, how far I'm willing to go. When you can be honest about those things with yourself, then you can have enough courage to come out and say whatever you want. Then you're courageous enough to do whatever you want.
Sure.
But being honest is one of the hardest things in the world.
It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. Wait,
So
the
problem is the lack of courage.
Sure.
And the bigger problem is being able to find that courage, because to find that courage, you need to be that honest with yourself. And then to be that honest with yourself, you need to actually be on that path of I want to be better. I want to evolve.
So primary wounding में एक और बड़ी खतरनाक बात ये होती है ना कि when you want to, because you want to be honest with yourself and now you want to acknowledge, right? You want to acknowledge कि यार ये wound हो गया था, कहीं मसला हो गया था. Who do you think gave you that wound? That's the number one thing, right? Because you got that wound when you were 2 years old. Who were you dependent on?
Yeah.
Like, नहीं,
Your
not,
primary caregivers.
no, not those people. They would never.
Never.
नहीं, तो उन्होंने जानबूझ के थोड़ी किया था. कुछ लोग तो करते हैं जानबूझ के, लेकिन उन्होंने जानबूझ के थोड़ी किया था. But that's what it is, right? All these moral imperatives, ये आपको नहीं करना चाहिए, ये गलत है. यार देखो, like you said, take a step back. अच्छा, epistemology, which is the study of...
नहीं,
which is the philosophy...
What does epistemology mean? First tell us that.
philosophy of knowledge. Right? Philosophy of knowledge. उसमें आपको जो number one thing सिखाते हैं ना, if you and I are to get anywhere, we need to have a context first, right? And that context can't change, right? So me getting stabbed in the street and you being upset by words cannot both be classified as violence. There needs to be a degree. I'm not saying there isn't room for it, but it can both be violence.
Yeah.
Because how do we get anywhere?
Oh, this like brings up one of my favorite things that I've learned about.
Yeah.
It's about spectrum.
Sure.
Nothing is this or that necessarily, but
No.
most things actually are from this unto that.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And
sure.
that seems to be the case for everything. And if we can actually sort of just understand that it's not as black and white as this, and this, then we can actually start accepting these spectrums.
I would
And
agree, yeah.
once you understand that it's not this or that, and you're on a scale, you become very comfortable to take a walk this way or that way.
The problem is moral absolutes, any kind of absolutes really, people find comfort in that. They're like, yeah, nahi, you're absolutely wrong. I'm absolutely right. What the fuck? Like, I'm good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and you're bad. You're not good.
Yeah.
यहाँ पे, this is a, like, bear with me. This is a long story. So, Friedrich Nietzsche was a German philosopher, and he came up with this thing called the slave morality.
Right.
Right? He was like, यार देखो, morals जो है ना कहाँ से आते हैं? हमने बोला नीचे भाई पता नहीं, क्योंकि यहीं पे हैदराबाद के थे.
Also, Bha Frederick.
जी, of course, yeah. Bha from
Related
Hyderabad.
to Bha Freud.
Of course. यार, you understand. Very good. So he was just like, यार, morals आते कहाँ से हैं? Good and evil का concept कहाँ से आता है? He's like, okay, barring religion को एक मिनट साइड में रखो, ये होता क्या है? तो बोलते हैं कि भाई, एक ज़माने में होते थे Romans, उनकी होती थी master morality. Master morality for whatever whatever is good or evil, not evil, whatever is good or bad about it, undesirable about it, master morality is self-centered.
Right.
So a Roman person, a normal Roman agent would be self-centered in that कि यार अगर मुझे एक चीज़ अच्छी लग रही है तो अच्छी है, मुझे एक चीज़ बुरी लग रही है तो बुरी है. मुझे अच्छा क्या लगता है? यार आप बहादुर हो, so you're courageous, you're proud, you're loud, you have this martial ability. These are good things, so they're good.
Yeah.
So then what's bad? The opposite. So if you're humble, if you're meek, if you're soft-spoken, that's bad. Not evil. There's no divine imperative. This is bad, right? अब आए Christian जो थे वो आपको पता है oppressed थे, minority भी थे, ostracized भी थे, सब कुछ था. Now the Christian, or so Nietzsche said, the Christian priests, they'd be like, यार, अगर हम इनसे लड़े, इन लोगों ने तो खा जाना है हमें, right? Because they have this martial ability and we simply don't.
Yeah.
So then what do? Well, we develop the slave morality. And what's the slave morality? Slave morality is other-centered. So whatever the master morality thinks is good is evil.
Is evil.
Is evil. Not bad, evil.
Yeah.
And whatever they think is bad is good, but in the divine sense. God told us it's good.
Yeah.
Right? So
I'd remove the question of it being good entirely.
Yeah, exactly. And this paradigm shift was meant for the master morality Romans to question themselves. Right? It's like, yaar, dekho, you need to hate the thing that you are. That's how we're going to beat you. Because otherwise we can't beat you. This is your game. It's rigged. It's your game, right? We can't beat you. But if we make you hate you, then you can't also hate us, right? Yeah. Because we're right and you're wrong. उस पे फिर नीचे बोलता है कि यार देखो, अब एक eagle है. An eagle does not hate a rabbit. Eats the shit out of it, doesn't hate it.
Doesn't hate it.
Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't hate it.
Yeah.
The eagle also doesn't hate itself for eating the rabbit. ये same मिसाल है. So
Eagle probably takes pride in the rabbit and goes like, oh, I swooped in like this, you know.
But you know what I mean? But it's not, it's unnatural for you to expect the eagle to
feel bad for catching its prey.
Yeah. Similarly, if there's an artist, right? They express themselves in a certain way. I know how people would take it because they also जो हिटलर की argument थी ना वो भी नीचे की theory से आई थी. Yeah, I'll just caveat. Side note.
नीचे थोड़ा controversial है इस तरह हमें पता
नीचे
है.
जो है ना वो हर किसी से बात कर लेता है.
There are some things that he said that are that's so sensible. You can't question it.
Yeah.
You know?
इसी तरीके से if say an artist comes out and they're like, yeah, I want to be a certain way, right? Who am I to make you feel bad about being you? Do you know what I mean? Like, how? And then similarly...
A lot of people you can actually tell कि आप ऐसे नहीं हो सकते. Artists को आप बिल्कुल भी नहीं बोल सकते. Because artists are already like at the bottom of the food chain. They've already been rejected. You know, people are like, oh, ये तो है ही ऐसे.
Sure.
I mean, I'm an artist. हमसे पूछो.
Gee, I just realized, I think 1 hour in, I just realized we never gave you an intro.
1 hour in?
Yeah, and we never gave you an intro. ये कौन बैठी हुई बातें कर रही है?
बोले जा रही है.
इसका accent भी है, कराची को भी बकवास कर रही है. हाँ, क्या break? For what?
Let's have a break.
Yeah, have a break. Yeah. We're breaking now. You good now? We were absolutely not on a break. We did not take breaks. We don't take breaks. we just fucking go. Because that's what we do. That's what it is. That's who we be in these streets. Hard as shit. We were just talking about the fact that we actually got into it and we didn't give you an intro.
Oh, yeah.
So...
Now we gotta start over.
No, we don't. No, there's some gold, inshallah. Lekin ye hai ki, let's talk about art because that is primarily what you would describe yourself as. An artist.
Well... No, actually.
No, okay.
I would not limit myself to being an artist.
Okay, beautiful.
I will, if there's any kind of box I really want to put myself in with what I do, I'd say I'm a conversationalist. I communicate, not just visually, but also with words, like what we're doing right now.
Yeah, मेरी नौकरी ले लो आप.
So, तुम्हारी नौकरी थी मेरे पास.
Let's talk about that.
So, like, growing up, I've been a yes person.
Okay.
So I ended up doing a lot of different things.
All right.
And doing all those different things, at some point, when you're 25 and you're like making your CV, cleaning it up, भेजने के लिए, and आपके पास कहीं कोई category नहीं आती, तो आप थोड़ी सी हो जाते हैं, okay, how do I define myself?
Sure.
Or not how do I define myself, but how do I present myself to the world? I do this and I do this. I did theater, I did radio, I did design, I did marketing, I did HR. Like, awesome. How do I present myself? What is it that I really do? And when I came down to it, that's what it came down to.
Yeah.
I talk.
Sure.
I communicate with you. I have a degree in visual communication. Like, how much more straightforward does it get than that,
Sure.
But how you earn and how you work and what you do in the world, I don't think they're the same thing. So what am I working as right now? I'm working as an artist, yeah. I paint full time.
Oh, cool.
A couple of years ago, I did, we were talking about how I'm going through a resurrection.
Yeah,
a new resurrection.
Yeah.
So this was one of those things. Painting is not a new thing to me. I've been doing it for maybe 15 odd years.
Jeez.
But I've never shown my work until now. Because I've only ever painted for myself. Because I never thought that this is work. Pakistan में आप छोटे बच्चे होते हैं, आपको डॉक्टर बनना होता है. आर्टिस्ट वो क्या होता है? आर्टिस्ट तो गरीब मर जाएगा.
इसमें कोई इतना झूठ भी नहीं है.
You know, so,
funny story.
Hey, in this day and age, everything you see around you is art.
Fair enough.
Like, what can you, even to put up this podcast, you're going to need a design to present it. Because we now live in a visual world.
Sure.
Where as a conversationalist, if you want to communicate, words aren't enough. Because there's so many complicated and complex things we're talking about now that maybe we weren't talking about 10 years ago. But how are we talking about it? So for me, when I say, okay, who do I present myself as? I'm a conversationalist. I will converse with you in words. I'll converse with you in voice, pictures, video, film, whatever it takes to get that message across.
Can you sing?
No.
Something we could both learn.
I can rap.
Dude, I can't rap, but I need to learn how to sing. I want to learn how to sing.
Big machine gun Kelly fan.
Oh, right. Machine. But you know how you were like, you did it for 15 odd, you've been doing it for 15 odd years and you've only now started to show it. So I'm 28 right now. When I was 16, I was bought my first camera. I took a bunch of photos. Some of them were quite nice. So I wrote a book. Uska jo cover photo hai na, I'll show you after. Uska jo cover photo hai na, that's actually one of the pictures I took when I was 17. Yeah.
Nice.
उसके बाद मुझे पता है ये subsequently I was told कि पहली बात ये कोई manly profession नहीं है. हाँ, और ये आप खाना कैसे खाएंगे? And I'm
खाना
just
कैसे
like,
खाएंगे? रोटी कैसे कमाएंगे?
And I'm like, and I took that to mean कि मुझे करना ही नहीं चाहिए.
Same.
दुनिया मतलब टाइम में इतना टाइम होता है बंदे के पास, आप कर लेते हो और दूसरा काम भी कर लेते हैं ना. मैंने बोला नहीं मुझे करना ही नहीं है, छोड़ो इसको.
क्या फायदा है?
Yeah,
Because
so-
you're made to. That's how it's presented to you. That you're not gonna get any value out of it. You're gonna waste your time. You're not gonna get any value out of it. You're only doing it for yourself. You know, some artists don't तुम्हें लगता है अपने लिए artist रहो. That's the sort of perspective we're given.
Sure. And I recently picked up photography. अभी मुझे शायद 2 महीने 3 महीने हुए फिर से I started doing the neon portraits again. But okay, realistically though, how do you productivize your art? And you are the right person to ask. I would
When
think.
you say productivize, what do you mean?
How do you make sure you don't starve to death?
How do I sell my work?
Well, not you, but just anyone. See, so like now you've said everything's art, right? So music is absolutely art.
Absolutely.
And what you're doing, painting is absolutely art, right? But anything, how does one ensure कि artistic drive भी alive रहे, काम भी
भूखा ना मर जाए.
भूखा लेकिन भूखा भी ना मरे?
Yeah.
हाँ. How does
So
that happen?
I think that goes back to understanding what it is that you're willing to give to the world.
Sure.
You know, when I started asking myself that question, oh, what am I going to do in my life? And like, am I really going to be a doctor?
Wait, what?
Yeah, I was pre-med.
Oh, what?
Wait, to get you, Pakistan mein sab bachcha at some point, when you start out, you're either a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Anything that you end up becoming came from one of these three.
Lawyer.
Most likely.
Lawyer.
There you go.
Yeah. Yes.
One doctor, one lawyer, and here we are.
Yeah, no, we're
Neither
not.
of us are in those professions, but
Yeah.
that's where we
Yeah.
start from, you
Yeah.
know? Because
Yeah.
those are the only respectable professions that are seen around you.
Sure.
So,
Sure, yeah.
that's-
Yeah, I still, देखो, this is the thing that I'm at that phase right now where because I am faced with these realities. ठीक है, पैसा बुरा है लेकिन पैसा बहुत अच्छा भी होता है.
yo, paisa kaun bol raha hai?
हाँ, कुछ लोग बोलते हैं. Right? But and then you wonder, यार, maybe I shouldn't have pursued my art. Maybe I should have stayed in a 9-to-5 monotonous. Yes, kill my creative drive, sure, but then I would have lots of money. That's what you have to remind yourself. No?
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. In the end, it really does matter. What matters is what am I willing to give to the world?
Exactly.
And
Yes.
what value am I going to get back from it?
Exactly.
When I
Yes,
asked myself that question, am I really going to be a doctor? I was not willing to give that part of myself to the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I cannot care for people in that way, is what I thought. I do not want to care for people's bodies. But as an artist, when you come out and I think, okay, what am I doing now?
Yeah.
I'm getting into people's minds and I want to talk to them about things that nobody can talk to them about.
Sure.
And sometimes words don't cut it. A conversation don't cut it.
Mm-hmm.
A song don't cut it.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that will cut it is if you find yourself in that experience. So you've seen my paintings now.
I have.
And how would you describe one of my paintings?
How I would describe it, they do attack, they don't just attack my visual.
Like when you see the painting, what do you see?
Explosion. I see an explosion of
Something.
something.
Every artwork will have a different something.
And मैंने बोला, am I supposed to take DMT and then look at this stuff? I don't understand. Like, is there a prerequisite? Am I the only one who just feels this? Because it's so abstract, and I try to look for words, right? I'm just like, yeah, nahi, I need to have a word. I don't have a word, but explosion.
So the painting that I do now is actually that. It's all those things that we can't talk about like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when you interact with one of those, the set that we're talking about right now that you're looking at, I created that with the mindset of where do I go when I want to be comfortable and safe enough to face myself? Where can I be completely honest? And it's in a certain feeling you find yourself like that.
Sure.
That's what I aim to do with these artworks. You know, when you see one of them, and when I see one of them, and if someone else sees one of them, all three of us will take from it exactly what each of us needs specifically. So, painting, art, is just another language to communicate like that.
Fair enough.
You know, that's why I say I don't want to limit myself to being an artist, because right now I'm painting. Maybe by next chat we're having, I'm not painting anymore.
Sure.
What if at that point I'm communicating with numbers?
Sure, okay.
Oh, that is.
ये एक चीज ये नहीं हो सकता.
Numbers थोड़ा मुश्किल, मेरे लिए मुश्किल है.
थोड़ा easy है
Like,
यार.
it's a language I don't understand.
Sure, but people do.
But people do, you know? And as much as I don't understand numbers, I do admire the artistic quality of that language,
Of course.
you know?
Without a doubt, right?
So,
yeah.
as an artist, in the end, that is what it is. You want to make a difference. It's about what you're giving to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's it.
I
yeah.
want to make conversation. So then why should I limit myself to, oh, I'm giving you color, I'm giving you pictures,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm not. I'm giving you an idea to ask yourself, have a conversation with yourself now.
So also one of the more beautiful things about art, हर चीज़ खूबसूरत होती है अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, लेकिन one of the more beautiful things about art is that it also takes you. So I feel मेरे पर्सनल यकीन ये है कि नुक्ता नज़र मेरा ये है कि
Nuqtai-nazar.
नुक्ता नज़र मेरा ये है कि
This is what I'm taking back today, Nuqtai-nazar.
नुक्ता नज़र है मेरा ये from now on only Urdu on your on all your channels. मेरा नुक्ता नज़र ये है, ये पेंटिंग मेरा नुक्ता नज़र ये है कि we are somehow anchored temporally, right? So there are things that happen to you in your life that हमने wounding की भी बात की, but that kind of shape you, and there's a part of you that you leave anchored temporally there,
Yeah.
right? So Deadmau 5
Deadmau 5
Deadmau 5 जब आया था हमने देखा था Dead Mouse जो था when it came, one of the first,
कहाँ पे देखा था?
मैंने तो YouTube पे देखा था, मैं शायद 17 साल का था, मैंने देखा होगा, नहीं इतना cool मैं हुई नहीं. I've never been to a single concert ever.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
Dead
no.
Mouse is definitely one to go check out.
Sure, I mean, yeah,
Absolutely.
and then get all the other things that I need there. Just exposure के लिए कर रहा हूँ मैं. This is science.
Experience.
ये science है, देखिए. I need to
Data collection.
I need to take
Research.
I need to take 10 of those pills. Science.
Research, no?
Right? तो बस तक फार. लेकिन ये जो है, so Dead Mouse का एक गाना था. I forget who it was with. It was a female artist, and she was doing the vocals.
Was that Sophie Needs a Ladder?
No, नहीं, it's not very well known, वो वाला गाना. Breathe for me, reach for me, preach for me, कि
कोई
something.
ना कोई comment कर देगा कौन सा गाना है, बता दे हमें.
Shoot me. Raise your weapon. नहीं,
Raise Your Weapon was
raise
the
your weapon भी
famous
नहीं था.
one.
हाँ, that's famous. No, raise your weapon नहीं था. बहरहाल उसमें जो था वो खातून होती है, and she's singing constantly. She's talking about club life and dancing, and she's like, well, the one thing she says, and I was 16, it was so profound to me at that moment, even though of course you know that everyone's equal and when we're all the same. She's like, in this light we're all the same. Right? And now that I think about it, all these neon portraits, this is where that comes from, right? So yes, art will trigger different things in different people. When I see your art, sure, I'll bring my own triggers to it, but something in your something in your history has caused these things to happen like this, right? I'm not going anywhere with that. I just wanted to say it. I said it.
Well, we accept it.
Yeah, thank
we
you.
accept your Nuqtai-nazar, no problem.
Appreciate it. That's my Nukta Nazar. I don't know if it's an Indian comedian. I think Zakir Khan. I want to say it was Zakir Khan, but I don't know. And they were talking about the frivolity of opinions these days. Right, and how someone who doesn't even have a bachelor's degree will comment on someone with 2 PhDs, and they'll still comment like कि भाई मेरा भी उतना ही opinion है जितना आपका है. तो उस पे he's like, my name is Shushma Pandey from Delhi. I have an opinion and an internet connection. That's all. So it's my fucking it's my opinion. That's it.
That's it. Yes, that's what it's come down to.
Fucking temporality. That's it. And neon portraits.
But that's one thing about art, I will say though, like, because it's such a loose language and it has so much variation to it.
Sure.
And anyone can speak it. You might not be a great artist, but if I give you a bunch of paint and a paper, you will say something.
I'll say something to you.
You'll say something,
I'll
in
say
one
I'm
way or
shit
another.
at art.
You might give me some mountains and a sun, but that says something. That says something about the experiences that you've come from. So the way I paint now actually it comes from holding that thought very, very tightly. And we were talking about this earlier, that our adult versions are made largely of our childhood experiences.
Sure, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Just understanding that, what I know now is that any artwork that I put outside, when you interact with it, you're using your childhood experiences to understand it.
Of course.
As am I.
Yes.
But what that does is, regardless of how different your experiences and your understanding of it is, regardless of how different my experiences and understanding of it is, we're both connected through that one place where we both feel safe.
Yes.
And that is why I think it's probably, for me, one of those modes of communication that I think is infinite.
Yes.
Because
yes. Yes.
it's not, and especially now, you know, in this day and age of communication and technology and access, it's a community like never before. Artists used to be very isolated people. You know, it was me and my canvas, and I'll head out and I'll say something, and then I'll bring it back and give it to you. But now, when I paint, I'm putting up stories while I'm doing it. I'm putting up snippets and bits. And, you know, someone from halfway across the world is asking me, oh, how did you do this? Sends me a picture, says, I did this. You know, and that connection, where we talk about everybody being connected.
Sure.
This kind of just brings your focus to that for a second. That regardless of who's saying, who's looking, where they're coming from, what they're bringing, we're connected through this one sort of language.
So we can talk.
Undefinable
Yeah,
language.
we can
You know,
talk.
and
Yes, yeah.
now it's even more highlighted how connected we are. Because, like, one of my favorite things about Instagram, I'm not, like, much into the social media. It's not fun for me. I'm a YouTube person. I love to watch things.
Yeah.
And I use my Instagram for my work.
Uh-huh.
But I appreciate so much that there is this sense of community. You know?
That there is.
Me being a person that has not studied art, fine art, you know? I'm a graphic designer, technically.
Still art?
Yeah, in the general, you know, like I'm
In
not
that
a,
realm,
I'm
yeah.
not a painter, fine artist. Like I don't have a master's in fine arts like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
So
sure.
coming from an international community, being a self-taught, self-proclaimed artist, when you come to somewhere and you're like, you try to tap into that community, you're often asked what your background or your qualification is, and you know, that really just, for me, someone like me coming back here, it really put me off. I was like, you know what? I don't want to be in this community of art that only speaks to each other, because art is meant for everybody.
It's not exclusive.
It's not exclusive.
It's not meant to
but
be.
Here, it did feel like that. To me, coming from outside, you know, coming to my hometown, I did feel a little bit excluded because I wasn't from the two sort of well-known art community. Like, I was not part of this community at all.
What's the two well-known art communities? There's Indus Wale Boys.
Matlab, you know, like people that have been studying here and practicing here and are connected. So, like,
Yeah.
but you feel separated.
I feel...
So as an artist,
Yeah.
I feel very like I don't have a community where I'm from. So what I do is I go on Instagram
Yeah.
and I'll go online and I'll
Yeah.
put my art. And what do? I get accepted into a community of artists that I'm not necessarily physically connected to.
Yeah, Maya, ये बड़ा serious मसला है ना कि a lot of things become pardon the colloquialism, but boys clubs. They can all be women. मैं सिर्फ बोलूं, they become boys clubs.
Art
They're
is
just
actually more of a women's club, I'd say.
like, so is psychology. मैं पता नहीं क्या कर रहा हूँ. लेकिन जो है वो it becomes like an exclusive club ना कि यार देखो, and then there's nepotism and there's all that nonsense.
There's in every industry.
Yeah.
In any industry, because see, we started off talking about how our environment affects us.
Yes.
When we're constantly in an environment of self-preservation, gotta protect myself, gotta defend myself, need to make sure I don't take advantage of, it changes the way you interact with the rest of the society. You know?
Yes.
So for me, coming from outside, I was not coming in with any threat that I'm gonna take your spot. You know, it was none of that. But you do get seen like that if you're not from within. You're an outsider.
अब मैं आपको बात बताऊं. Have you always sounded like this?
Like what?
Have you always had this accent?
I think so, yeah.
Then that's a threat. And you know where I'm going with this. The brilliant women of Connolly and what they did to that manager. Fucking shit, yeah. Like, let's not, right? But we are so post-colonially hungover.
About that, I just want to send out a big shout out to Akbar
Yeah.
and Ali and George for the parody that
Oh,
they did.
dude,
that was
yeah.
brilliant. Like,
That's
that
so
was
good.
everything we needed.
That was so good. It was so good. And he's like Synth Club. Bloody shit fool. I was like, dude, how is he's really good.
That was
They're all really
good.
good.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
all really good. And two of them are comedians, and one of them is...
Akbar's actually an engineer.
he's not a comedian?
Yeah, he's a comedian, but he was an engineer at some point.
Jeez, dude.
I know, I was
Scars
blown.
and shit,
I
right?
was like, wow.
Just scars and
But
shit.
see, वही बात जो हम अभी बात करते हैं.
Yeah.
Lawyer, doctor.
Yeah. And he
Engineer.
actually became an engineer. मैं तो नालायक हूँ ना, मैं lawyer बना थोड़ी.
मैं भी डॉक्टर नहीं बनी ना,
हाँ.
पर शुरू तो हम वहीं से हुए थे ना.
शुरू वहीं से हुए थे.
एंड कहाँ हुए?
Philosopher and writer. Conversationalist.
Artist, conversationalist,
Yeah.
comedian.
Comedian.
So ये, like, you have 3 examples right here of what
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know, so?
Sure, yeah.
और
yeah.
क्या कहें?
और क्या कहें? और क्या कहेगा काजी?
और क्या कहेगा काजी
Dude,
इसके बारे में? अब बताओ.
seamless. It was seamless, right? I got in there. No, yeah, but so back to the thing. we're so post-colonially hungover, right? Ki I don't understand that you would not be a threat simply because of how you sound.
Now let me change your perspective for a second. You're
Please
looking
do.
at it from there.
Yes.
We're post-colonialism, so there's this like, oh, we're inspired to speak in a certain way.
Yes.
Where I'm coming from, I don't speak the way that I do because post-colonialism.
No.
I want to be a part of the bigger world. I want to speak a language that I can speak across and communicate with people
But that accent.
from all over the world.
But that accent. You think you need that accent?
My accent's only questioned here.
Yes. No. नहीं मेरा तो कनाडा में भी होता. They're like, why do you speak such good English? I'm like, there's no such thing. It's
Now
just English.
that's not about our accent.
No.
That's about the perspective the outside world has of us. कि, अरे आप तो पाकिस्तान से आप इतने गोरे क्यों हैं?
मैं तो न्यू आप है.
ये भी एक question आता है क्या? Oh,
आता है.
how do you speak such good English?
Yeah.
You know, why aren't you dressed like that?
Why aren't you dressed like that?
वो तो no, you don't
Are you
imagine.
going to ask me about a camel too? He's like, no, that I asked the...
I asked the one before you.
वो मैं सऊदियों से पूछता हूँ. I'm like, all right, good. At least you know.
You're not supposed to look like that. वो तो यहाँ पे भी होता है. When I go outside like this, I get stared at. Because people don't expect you to look like that.
Yeah.
Even more surprising, when I was in Lahore, people used to ask me if I was from Pakistan.
You would say no.
पहन के बाहर जाती
Just
थी,
fuck
you
with
know?
them. But you'd say no. You have to say
You
no.
don't think I did at some
Yeah, of
point?
course. You must.
Sometimes you just want to have a fun day.
Yeah,
Someone's like,
dude.
oh, आप रोमानिया से? Yes.
Yeah, G. G बिल्कुल. The best one I got, or I don't know why this is the best or the worst, but the one I got was egg Sicily. So मैं हमेशा, when I shave ना, different होता
It changes,
है.
yeah.
It changes a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit, right? Yeah. तुम्हारे बाल भी सीधे, तुम Sicily से हो. जी बिल्कुल.
Yeah.
Right? And then लेकिन ये Canada में होता है. And the other one was obviously, are you Spanish? जी बिल्कुल.
You didn't
Spanish.
get called Irani when you were traveling in Canada?
No.
No?
No, so I almost never had a beard क्योंकि मुझे डर लगता था कि वो एयरपोर्ट पे रोक लेंगे.
हाँ. वो terrorist भी तो है
जी
ना,
जी.
वो भी तो है.
मेरे नाम में मोहम्मद आता है ना actually.
ये भी
काजी
तो है.
मोहम्मद अकबर है ना. I was like, yeah, well, I'm not giving up this name. I love this name.
Yeah.
So you know, just shave the beard. Say.
But these things, you know, in the end, they like kind of create that presentation of who you are. And that presentation is the only thing that goes outside. You're not going to get to defend yourself, so you better as hell have presented yourself as who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to carry myself this way and go outside, it's not because I'm trying to be rebellious or I'm trying to, you know, it's more about being honest with yourself.
It's not a phase.
It's not a phase. It's not a phase and it's not a facade either.
No.
It's about being honest with yourself.
Sure.
If you can be honest with yourself, then you can be courageous enough to do the right things. Then you can be courageous enough to say, hey, the power's inside me. I don't need your validation. You know, I don't need you to tell me that, hey, you don't look feminine with this hair. I'm going
People
to
say
tell
that?
you that. It's one of those things, yeah.
People tell me that as well. I don't look feminine with this hair.
You look
I'm
like a boy,
yeah,
you know?
मुझे भी ये लोग बोलते रहते हैं, you look like a boy. I'm like, यार क्या करूँ, बाल जा
And
रहे हैं.
it's not like that doesn't offend me in any way.
Not anymore. It wasn't.
Ever. Because I understand that in perspective-wise, a girl is not expected to look with hair like this. Okay, especially in our community.
हाँ,
You know,
नहीं,
if I was traveling outside in like a
they wouldn't give a shit.
in
dude.
open liberated
Yeah.
society, and someone's like, "Oh, you look like a boy," then I'd be like, "Hey, you know what? You need to check your perspective." But here, because I know that there's a certain expectation to look like a woman,
Yeah.
it's stupid of me to reject that. If I'm gonna look like this, I need to look like this, knowing that,
Interesting.
hey, you know what? This is what the society is.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I'm not trying to say anything to you guys, but I want to be honest to whom I am.
So you're not being antagonistic to them. You're not.
Not at all.
Mm.
That's what I'm saying. Instead of this whole conversation we've been having, we've been sort of back and forth on this outside and inside. you know?
Yes.
And I'm going to keep going at this. We need to put the power back inside.
I agree.
You need to start becoming honest with yourself so that you have courage for the world. And being honest with yourself is not necessarily about, oh, I need to show it to them. You know?
It's not about, yeah.
It's not at all about that.
That's very
If
well
you
put,
would have
yeah.
met me last year, I looked like every other girl in the city. But I had a very different purpose with what honesty I was giving to myself.
But you must have sounded the same, right? You were still this person, right?
I was actually maybe sounding a lot more vicious a couple of years ago.
Oh.
So I might have looked much nicer, but if you talk to me, it would be not as much fun.
Like knives and shit? Like just...
Talwar, bro. Talwar.
Of course, talwar. Why would I forget? How do I forget
We're not
this?
those people who just decided this.
Yes, बिल्कुल. जी.
क्या कहेगा काजी?
क्या पता नहीं और क्या कहेगा. लेकिन why the viciousness?
Again, when we were talking about this, that your environment affects you.
Mm-hmm.
And
So you had recently come back?
No.
फिर?
I'm a... Dude, let's just... I'm a woman. Do you really need to ask me why I need to be vicious?
I don't.
No.
I recant that statement.
That's just the obvious of it, you know?
Yes, of course.
But if you're a working woman in an environment where you're largely surrounded by males, you are not taken seriously. Like, one of the most upsetting things in my life that has happened to me, and I've been through some shit.
Yeah.
But one of the most upsetting things that I've ever encountered was I was working in a team for a good, well-known client.
Multinational.
And, and we'd hired a team from outside to do a project basis.
Okay.
So I was directing this project. So I called these bros in, and there were two guys that came in, and, I gave them the brief. I laid all their information out. I'm in charge of this project, clearly.
Yes.
I put that forward. I'm the only person in this room you're talking to.
Yes, there's no one else talking.
No one talking to you.
Yeah.
So these guys go home. I send them an email with all their details, da-da-da-da-da. And when I get the response comes back to Mr. So-and-so, a gentleman on my team. And I I saw that and I was like, okay, you know what? Never mind.
Kaam karwao.
We're gonna,
kaam karwao.
it's not something to latch on to. Like, it's about work, so we're gonna just, I let that go for that second. And I came back to it. Sent out another email. Didn't say anything. Email goes out signed Maya. Comes back, dear Mr. Such and such. This happened a couple of times. And after that, even my teammates were like, we know you're upset by this. I was like, yes,
Yeah.
And that was when you look at the sort of thing that, you are not even given the respect for who you are. Forget it. This situation is not a man, woman, blah, blah, blah.
No.
This is the job. It needs to be done. I have the information. Communicate with me.
That's it.
But because I'm a woman, it changes that. And you'd be shocked. I'm not the only person with this story.
You're not.
This is not my only story like this. And this is probably one of my nicer stories. Where as a woman, if in a work environment especially, I've walked into rooms where people don't even look at you. That's how little seriously you're taken. So in that situation, if I've got something to say, I'm not going to just not make a scene.
Yeah, you have to be loud. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Loud is fun. They expect you to be loud. So they're prepared for it. But they're not expected for you to be smart. They're not expecting you to be sharp. And they're not expecting you to be vicious. So sometimes, vicious is the only thing that will work for me. So why should I shy away from it?
You should.
I shouldn't.
No, and
not at all.
No one should tell you.
Just earlier off camera we were talking about this, but we were talking about how, our size sort of matters in the world.
Sure.
I'm a skinny girl, you're a big guy, how that gets perceived.
Sure. I'm the nicer one out of the two of us. People need to know this. Yeah.
I'm sure your audience knows you better than that.
By a mile, I'm the nicer one.
But that also does play a big part in how you're perceived into the world. And how you're perceived is how you'll be responded to. And that will change how you respond to the world.
Yes.
So, zulm karna is bad, zulm sehna bhi bad. So, I'm going to be the kindest, nicest, most forgiving version of myself, and I will bring the most politest version, the most professional version of myself.
Yeah.
But if that is unaccepted, and you're going to shit on me, then you're going to get the other thing that I brought for you. Because you know what, in the end, if I remove that I'm a woman, under that, I'm a strong, independent, autonomous human being. Deal with that.
That's it. So you know who Winston Duke is, right?
No.
Winston Duke is M'Baku from Black Panther. You didn't watch what? Say that.
I didn't watch Black Panther.
What the fuck is wrong? You need to stop this.
Let me just tell you, I also have not watched Game of Thrones.
वो तो उससे क्या फर्क पड़ता है? लेकिन Black Panther तो देखने की है ना. लेकिन तो यार M'Baku is this guy who's 6'7".
यार मैं पेंटर हूँ ना, मैं नहीं.
अच्छा चलो
मैं
ठीक
गुम हो
है.
जाती हूँ ना महीने अंदर.
हाँ मैं आपको बता दूँ कोई मसला नहीं है. He's 6'7". He's this big, beautiful black man, right? And he was telling you एक movie है उसमें वो ये कर रहा होता है कि he's just standing there, दूसरा बंदा ना constantly is being racist, he's being aggressive. He's like, ये वो सब कुछ. And this guy's just like, यार देखो chill करो, I don't want to make a scene. I've moved into this neighborhood. I'm new. And then he's like, नहीं यार देखो तुम जैसे लोग आते हैं and this and that, ये अच्छा neighborhood है, अमीर neighborhood है. फिर ये बोलता है कि भाई देखो मैंने ये घर खरीदा है on cash, I'm good in every which way, you're being racist. तीसरी दफ़ा जब वो कोई बच्चों के बारे में बात होता है, so Winston Duke, now please keep in mind 6'7", 280 pounds, just huge, right?
Yeah.
He's just like, if y'all want to get crazy, we can get crazy. And I'm just like, that's what it is. That's the answer in the end. Right? How much are you going to push someone or a group of people, women, kids, Sunni people, Shia people, Sindhis, Muhajirs, whoever, how long are you going to push someone before they're like, if y'all want to get crazy, we can fucking get crazy. You know what I mean? Trans people, you know?
Yeah.
It's just...
And it's not just about pushing, you know, like in this situation, like, I'm very, very, I'd say, blessed in a way
Alhamdulillah,
that I have been able to shed off a lot of the things that were ingrained in me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's the reason that I can come out and be vicious and not feel bad about it.
Slave
And
morality.
feel like I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You know? But there are so many people that get pushed their entire lives well into their death and they never get to stand up for themselves.
No.
You know, so, and that's what shocks me, that why are we not putting the power into the people? Because when we take the power out of the people become vulnerable. When you take the power out of me, if I can't say, oh, you know what, hurt me as much as you want, I can still heal because I don't need a system. I don't need you. What I need is my own will. And that puts the power inside you.
Sure, of course.
But once you have the power inside you, there's only so far you can push me. But if there is no power inside me, you can tell me whatever you want and I'll believe it. Because who else am I supposed to learn from? If I'm not learning, if I'm not taking power from myself, then I need to take that power from someone.
Yeah, dekho, yes, right? So what you're speaking, or what I understand is you're speaking about agency, right? You're speaking about empowerment in your own agency, right? Isme ye hai ki the people, the powers that be, right? They can't have everyone empowered, but a masla ho jayega. Because, you know, you need to herd people and they need to do certain
इसीलिए
things.
तो नहीं power अंदर डाला जाता है, इसीलिए तो आपको दबाया जाता है, इसलिए आपको बोला जाता है, don't make a fuss.
No, don't make
अगर
a fuss.
आपके
Don't
साथ
make a
कुछ
scene.
गलत हो रहा है, don't make a scene about it, चुप करके do what you can.
हाँ, एक तरफ हो जाओ.
Make the peace.
Yeah.
That responsibility of keeping the peace
Yeah.
is put on you.
Sure.
And not just on me as a woman, but on you as a man as well, and depending on what situation, what context we're in.
Of course.
अगर आपसे कोई बड़ा है, अगर किसी के पास आपसे ज़्यादा power है, in general looking,
Yeah.
then that person will expect you to not make a scene.
No, of course. Yes.
You know, whether they're right or they're wrong.
No,
And
that's
that-
irrelevant. Yeah.
Yeah, that becomes irrelevant. So then what options are you left with? And now imagine yourself as a woman.
I can't. So that's what's funny, right? So for the longest time, I thought मैं बड़ा चौड़े में घूमता था. I used to think, yeah, बड़ा imagination बड़ी खतरनाक है, right? And then my sister's like, oh, hey. I'm like, you know me, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I can imagine so much. She's like, all right, imagine being me. No, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being my sister or my mom. I just can't.
You can't imagine it, but you know what you can do? You can empathize with
Of course, yes. And that I think that whole thing with me, I don't know Misha
and
for
more
shit, dude.
than imagining it, the empathizing it will create understanding.
Sure, of course.
If it creates understanding, then you might be able to imagine it actually. You know?
Maybe. मैं आपको यही बोल रहा हूँ ना कि I don't know Misha for shit, dude. And for goddamn sure, she doesn't need me to be upset. Right? She's fine.
Yeah.
She's more than fine, right? माशाल्लाह से. लेकिन ये है कि I suppose that's what that realization was कि यार, that's not how this is supposed to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, ठीक है. जो भी आप, like, if, so now if I, and I don't know what's happened to me, but now if I look at any woman, empowered or no, I'm like, no, there's certain things that I owe you simply because I'm physically stronger. Because it, and physically तो चलो एक बड़ा मैंने एक crude बात बोल दी, but because things are easier for me.
Yeah.
Just generally things are easier for me. Like,
More privilege in some ways.
yes.
Simple as that. You know?
Some ways, जी बिल्कुल.
Yeah.
कुछ बहुत
In some ways.
मामूली
हाँ.
चीज़ है, ज़्यादा तो कुछ भी नहीं है.
मतलब
ये
लाइन
मजाक
में
है,
तो
that's
लेडीज ही
sarcasm.
आगे जाएगी ना.
Ladies.
वहाँ पे आपको कोई privilege नहीं मिलने वाला.
नहीं यार, that
वहाँ पे privilege 100% मेरा है.
of course.
और मैं मांगूंगी क्योंकि मुझे सिर्फ वही privilege मिलता है. You know what I mean?
You're upsetting me. no, so when I came back from Canada, na, my mom got a little sick. So we went to the doctors, we went to the hospital, right? I got so upset. I made such a scene. And my mom, imagine this, a guy making a scene and my mom was scolding me. She's like,
छोड़ो जाने दो.
नहीं छोड़ो नहीं जाने दो मैं तुम्हारे साथ चलूंगी नहीं मैं जा रही हूँ
तुम शोर मचाते हो.
हाँ तुम शोर बकवास करते रहते हो I'm like क्यों क्योंकि काउंटर है it's a semi circle counter ऐसे मतलब आदमियों का ऐसे जुट्ठा बना हुआ है ख़वातीन पीछे खड़ी हुई हैं अब उनकी तबीयत ख़राब नहीं है या क्या है? मैं ज़ोर ज़ोर से चीखे इसी बात पे मारी। मैंने बोला इस मुल्क में, इस शहर में, बोले ये खुद भी तो कराची से, कहाँ से आए, कौन सा मुल्क? उसने इस मुल्क में, इस शहर में औरत का सबसे बड़ा गुनाह ये है कि वो पैदा हुई, वो औरत है। उसका दूसरा सबसे बड़ा गुनाह ये है कि उसकी तबीयत ख़राब हो गई, ये गुनाह है। एंड दे जस्ट लाइक सर आप इजी हो जाए, हम आपको पानी पिलाते। मैं फाड़ में गया तुम्हारा पानी।
Feelings are hard.
फीलिंग्स आ रही है अभी। And my mom just scolding me in the middle of everything.
Now, here's another perspective to add to this, you
Yes.
know, in this whole conversation about, women and men and, fairness, unfairness, how we're seen, perceived, blah, 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 blah. The perspective that I'm sharing with you is the perspective of a privileged woman. Is a perspective of a privileged woman that people actually know कि hey, इसको बोलेंगे तो जीखेगी.
मसला करेगी.
Now imagine, and this is hard for me to imagine also. Imagine if you were a person who didn't have that sort of confidence. Or imagine if I was the sort of person, if I went home and I told my dad like, oh, masla ho gaya. My dad says, तुम्हारी गलती है, phone दे दो, घर पे बंद हो जाओ. Now what courage does that give me to stand up for myself later? None. So that's, and I want to highlight this, that the perspective that we're talking about, your mom's perspective, my perspective, we are still privileged women.
Alhamdulillah, yeah. So
And
privileged.
still
yeah.
we get to see these things. Still we get to have these experiences that make us feel like we're worth nothing
Mhm.
just because I was born a woman.
Mhm.
So these things are ginormous. And if people like you and I
Mhm.
were doctors and lawyers
Yeah.
and not having these conversations, then who would have these conversations?
I know this. कि if I had not taken the liberty with my education that I did, I wouldn't have these perspectives. So I've been very
Same,
violent, and I've
100%.
been very angry, and I've been quite a chauvinist for a large portion of my life, right? But then बाबा और मम्मी दोनों की तरफ से ये कभी भी नहीं था कि बेटा आपने, वो एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली थी जो बोलती है आप लॉयर बनेंगे या आप इकोनॉमिस्ट बनेंगे. इकोनॉमिस्ट कौन बनता है? मैं. But they're like, so I went in Malaysia, I did post-colonial diasporic literature and media studies and economics.
Damn son, you did this in Malaysia?
Yeah, in Malaysia and Monash. Yeah.
So समझ आ गई थी उनकी.
Yeah, don't be like this. कम समझ आई थी लेकिन कोई बात नहीं है. And I left that degree unfinished क्योंकि I had to move to Canada. Canada में I did professional writing and philosophy. Right? Again, no one pushed me. And वही वाली बात है ना कि अब there is a consequence of that. There's no job security in these degrees.
Yeah.
No one's teaming over looking to hire me and stuff, right? But I needed to do that to understand at least कि यार scene क्या है.
Okay, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
You've traveled, you've worked abroad, you've lived around other people.
You know.
What do you think
Alhamdulillah.
affected you the most in those experiences? What do you think you learned most from?
So I used to go to school in Toronto, but we used to live somewhere around Burlington. अच्छा ये जो है 1 घंटे की ड्राइव है.
थोड़ा सा गाँव.
हाँ गाँव गोट. 40 मिनट 1 घंटे की ड्राइव है. ट्रैफिक में रात में बहुत मज़ेदार अच्छी हो जाती है. रात में समटाइम्स आई वुडंट इवन टेक द हाईवे. सो यू नो हाईवे पे सिग्नल्स नहीं होते, ट्रैफिक सिग्नल्स नहीं होते. लेकिन वापस आते हुए आई वुड टेक डंडा स्ट्रीट डाउन. एवरीवन हु लिव्स इन कैनाडा विल नो डंडा स्ट्रीट डाउन फ्रॉम टोरंटो टू बर्लिंगटन वाला साइड. सुबह के 3 बजे when there was not a single soul on the road, no police, nothing, I would stop at every single traffic light. जब रेड होती थी कोई मसला ही नहीं है, कोई मसला ही नहीं. रुका हुआ हूँ. कौन देख रहा है आपको? कोई भी नहीं. I realized कि हमारी जो मोरालिटी है ना पाकिस्तान में तो हाँ, लेकिन जनरली हमारी जो मोरालिटी है मुआशरे में, it is a consequentialist morality, right? So if you don't show me the consequences of this, right?
Yeah.
I will not be. I should, right? As someone who fears Allah Mia and someone who knows that they'll be resurrected and all, I should, but I don't, right? Saif Jatoi, he was on one of the podcasts, and I was asking him about. And he's, if you know Saif Jatoi, you know Saif Jatoi. He's fucking raw and so brazen about whatever he does and however he does it. I was asking. I was like, yeah, aap batao, women. How do we fix this issue with women? And in his own unique, profound way, only the way he can, he said something so powerful. And he's just like, अब आप अपनी सारी philosophy जो है ना इसके ऊपर आप कर लो, लेकिन ये बात है. बोलते हैं काजी साहब, imagine करो कि एक लड़की जा रही है. I'm like, imagine कर रहा हूँ, खूबसूरत है, बहुत ज़बरदस्त, पैंट शर्ट पहनी हुई है. ये तो होता है कराची में. बोला नहीं, सुनते जाओ. अब imagine करो कि एक बंदा आता है और ज़ोर से slaps her on the bum. I was like, ये भी imagine करना मुश्किल नहीं है, तो होता है.
तो बहुत ज़्यादा होता है.
हाँ, बोलता है, no, here's what it is. Now imagine she turns around, roundhouse kicks him in the fucking face. I'm like, that's a beautiful thought. He's like, it is, isn't it? But here's the problem. Here's the point. Once that happens, na, फिर people are going to start thinking, men are going to start thinking twice before doing it. Because it's a consequentialist morality. I had this podcast with Prey Maimun, and she was talking about something similar. We were speaking about the highway rape case, Allah Rahm Kare. And she was saying कि ठीक है, आप जितनी भी gruesome punishment कर लो, आप उसका इश्तिहार लगा दो. आप बोलो कि ये देखो, इसको हमने traffic light पे टांग दिया. Right? Conviction rate and the carry through or the implementation of the punishment is a much more pertinent, a greater factor when it comes to mitigating these things, right? So if the guy looks at a lady and he wants to do whatever horrible shit, first off, like, fuck this guy, right? But if he wants to do something like that, and he thinks ki yaar, 10% chances are I'm going to get caught and then punished. 90% chances are I'm not going to get caught or punished. I like those odds, right?
90s works in my favor.
Yeah, exactly. 99%, 100% ये होना चाहिए कि
अगर मैंने ये किया तो अब मुझे भरना पड़ेगा.
हाँ, और अगर मैं पकड़ा गया तो मैं मरूंगा. उसमें जो back to my Canada example, उसमें ये था कि यार I could break the red light and maybe I won't get caught. If I do get caught, my license is gone. My car is gone. Everything's gone, right? So it's about conviction rate.
The risk is too high now.
It's too high.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
I would like to think I'm a nice person. I'm not. No one
But you know, like in this story, I want to point out something.
Yeah.
ये जो बात बोली ना कि अगर लड़की ने मुड़ के उसको रख दी, what will that do to the guy?
Yeah.
That's actually something to focus on.
Yes.
अभी हम बात कर रहे थे कि as a girl, you're often taught कि शोर नहीं मचाओ.
नहीं.
Don't cause a fuss.
No.
Don't cause a scene. Do you know what that
चुप
does?
जाओ. Yeah.
That basically allows these guys to keep doing what they do. उस बंदे ने एक लड़की के साथ किया, वो चुप करके शोर नहीं मचाया, फस नहीं किया, तो वो चली गई. इस बंदे ने what did he think? Oh,
कर सकता हूँ.
This is now the consequence. कि मैं कुछ भी करूँ, मेरे साथ कुछ नहीं होगा. And that doesn't change. Now this guy's been doing it to say 20 girls. And then मेरे जैसी कोई आती है जो actually मुड़ के रख देती है. Now he doesn't, now the perspective changes. It's like, oh, वो सब सही थी. So लड़कियां are generally like this. If I see a girl, I can still be like this. But this one, something was wrong with this one specifically.
Yes.
So you're sort of like, you know, just like, oh, that's just special. And it's made as an odd case.
Yes, you relegate that to exceptions.
Yeah, so that doesn't count into this consequentialness. Like, oh, if I do this every time, it's going to happen. But if every time that guy did that, and he got roundhouse kicked every time, then it would be ingrained really, really hard.
That'd be a beautiful thing, wouldn't it?
That, you know what? If I ever touch a girl, this is what's going to happen.
This is what's going to happen.
Because now he's been conditioned into it.
Yes.
Forget society, forget everything. Just your very, very basic neural functioning. You've been conditioned into this is what I do, and this is the consequence.
Action, consequence. Exactly,
consequence. That's it, you know? So, ये जो हम बात कर रहे थे कि ओ शोर नहीं मचाओ, फस ना करो, this is part of the problem.
Of course, 100%.
Big part of the problem.
Yes,
because then when situations come up where you need to sort of put that courage forward and do the right thing and stand up for your values तो नजर ही नहीं आ रही.
नहीं, values तो नजर नहीं आ रही.
You know, so, and this what you're saying about like कि मैं वहाँ पे, you know, your risk is so high, license will go, whatever. That's why you don't do it. That also then changes how you see the world.
Yes.
It changes how you react to the world.
Sure.
Because now what has happened? Your power has gone from outside and come back inside you. Your responsibility of your actions has gone from outside and back inside you.
Yes.
So just as much as we need to put power back inside, we also need to put responsibility back inside.
Yes.
And
without a doubt.
You know, like we were talking about childhood experiences.
Yes.
ये हमारे साथ बचपन में हर किसी के साथ होते हैं.
Okay.
तो अगर आप ऐसे करेंगे ना तो शैतान will pee in your mouth.
Huh?
Oh, you know, like one of those. Like,
no, I don't. Why is the shaitan peeing in my... Fuck him.
There's different versions. Allah Baba aa jayega.
Allah Rahm Kare, हाँ.
You know?
Yeah, no. So I've definitely had...
Or like if you do this, you're going to go straight to hell. So there's that... Since childhood, your brain's kind of been made to think that, oh, it's the consequence that matters.
Sure.
It's not my action that matters.
No.
It's the consequence that matters.
There's nothing inherently wrong.
So then we need to start going back to our children and working through those moments. But we can't do that if we're not curious, if we're not healing, if we're not questioning. तो हम अपने बच्चों को क्या सिखाएंगे?
कुछ भी नहीं सिखाएंगे,
You know, so-
कुछ भी नहीं. That's very I think and I think this is a beautiful place to end this podcast, क्योंकि अगली बार के लिए भी बातें छोड़नी है इंशाल्लाह. क्या कहते हैं,
अभी तो और बातें खुल गई हैं मेरे
अभी
ख्याल
तो खुल
से.
गई हैं, कोई तो मसला है ना. बातें अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह इंशाल्लाह नहीं बंद होंगी. तो आई थिंक ये जो वो है ना कि दिस पैराडाइम वे लाइक यार देखो, एज लॉन्ग एज आई डोंट गेट कॉट, एज लॉन्ग एज देयर इज नो कॉन्सिक्वेंसेज, वो मसला नहीं है. Right? For instance, we'll use a very kosher example because some of the examples have been really, really dark. They have to be. We're talking about dark shit, no? But say,
Oh, this was dark. Oh, wait. We will definitely come back for second conversation.
नहीं यार मैं जो है ना I've become, पता नहीं मुझे क्या हुआ है, I've become a lightweight. एक ज़माने में मैं बता रहा हूँ ना आपको, इमोशन थोड़ी होती थी. कुछ भी दिखा दो, watch up, मतलब I don't want to use examples here. Like कभी खुशी कभी कम दिखा दो, रोना थोड़ी आता था. लेकिन it's beautiful. लेकिन जो है उसमें इस पैराडाइम की यार, what matters is that this inherently is somehow गलत. So a kosher example is A levels में, O levels में हम mocks देते थे, right? Because there was no consequence. Have you ever passed a mock?
Yeah.
I have not passed a single mock exam.
So
Not
I
a
was
single.
very like straight-laced student, no rebellion, not
Wait,
trying to mess up the
what
system,
what grades did you get in O levels?
What did I get in O levels?
Huh.
I had a mixed bag. I got A's, B's, C's, D's,
How
the
many A's
whole
did you
lot.
get? How many A's did you get?
3.
3.
Proud.
Yeah, of
Proud
course.
with 3 A's.
Of course. And what did you get in A levels?
Are you really gonna make me say this on camera?
Don't say it.
Hey, I got a proud A level art student,
हाँ.
A++ on all my portfolios.
Are you serious?
Loved it.
अच्छा.
Yeah, it was great.
मेरा O level में एक ही था इंग्लिश में. और
एक C था, एक D था.
हाँ, मेरे बाकी सारे C's और D's थे. और जो था ज़्यादातर D's भी थे. और जो है वो मेरा A levels में B's across the board. Yeah. Why was I saying that? हाँ, तो
पर्पस क्या था इसका?
आपकी गलती है. Let me finish please. जो mocks exams होते थे, I would always fail them because there was no consequence. Right?
What did they count for?
What do they count for? Well, isn't there inherent value in studying? No. Isn't there inherent value in knowing how to give exams, knowing how to take the pressure? No. As long as I have a good consequence.
Yeah.
So I suppose what you're saying and what I'm saying, at the risk of this sounding like an echo chamber now, we have disagreed. It's fine, right? We need to get people back to thinking about their actions independent of consequences. That's fair, right?
I want to adjust that a little bit.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Because we don't need to do anything to other people. What we need to do is we need to be the examples of what we're talking about.
जी बिल्कुल.
We need to present that.
जी.
You know, once you start seeing something.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier I asked you, what did you learn from your all this time traveling and studying, you know? I asked you that because what I learned when I was traveling and learning and all of that, the thing that affected me most was the people I came across. Because when you meet people who have nothing to do with you, who are nothing like you, and the only thing that relates you is your red blood and humanity, you really come down to those two things.
It changes you.
It changes you.
Yes.
And when you come down to those two things, the perspectives that you end up learning from, it changes how you function towards everybody else.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
When you've sat down at a table with people from 6 different countries and they've all told you one thing that is a problem in their society, it gives you a question. It stops you to think, what is it that I'm going to put forward here? You know, and then it really like brings you down to what is necessary, what is of importance, what is worth presenting in this global community of problems.
What is
you know,
essential,
like, what is the issue?
What
So,
is the issue?
I think when we talk about that, and this has also been a problem, that we're trying to change each other. We're trying to fix each other. We want you to be like me. I want you to be like me. I want you to be like me.
Because I'm right and you're wrong and all
Yeah.
those things, right?
And that's why I don't want to say that, oh, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get people to do this. That's why I'm saying what we need to do is we need to start getting curious. We need to start learning. We need to build vocabulary to be able to communicate.
We
with
definitely
each
need a
other.
language, yeah?
And we need to be accurate with how we're communicating,
Yes.
using our empathy and our understanding. You know?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
when we're
yeah.
able to do that, we won't need to do anything. We don't need to make anyone do anything. But we're doing the right thing shines.
It shines. But Allegory of the Cave कभी पढ़ी आपने प्लेटो की? right? Okay.
इतने स्मार्ट इतने पढ़े लिखे नहीं है
नहीं मैं पढ़ा लिखा हूँ, आपको लग रहा है, बस अल्लाह रहम करे। तो
सारे नीचे भाई भी आ गया, फ्रॉइड भाई भी आ गया, शुक्र है ये पता था कौन है।
हाँ, प्लेटो पता था, ये मिले थे ना मुझे एक्चुअली, सिंध में ये सारे थे ना लोग। फिर लोग नाराज हो जाएंगे कि पंजाब में भी थे। प्लेटो पंजाब से था, आपको तो पता है।
ठीक है।
हाँ, तो प्लेटो पंजाब से था, एंड प्लेटो presented this allegory that he called the allegory of the cave. Plato loved telling stories, by the way. And he told stories about Socrates and sometimes himself even. And so he tells you this story about the allegory of the cave. I won't go too much into detail because इस पे किताबें लिखी हुई हैं लोगों ने कि क्या, what all he meant. The allegory of the cave starts by, for whatever reason, there's 4 people that have been bound in a cave, right? They grow up in the cave, their whole life in the cave. They have enough food कि वो खाना खा रहे हैं, खाना उनको कोई दे रहा है. Plato's like inconsequential. खाना कहीं से भी आ रहा है, वो खाना खा रहे हैं, and वो जिंदा है, ठीक है ना? They spend their whole life in a cave. बड़े भी cave के अंदर हुए हैं. क्या होता है cave के अंदर कि the sun shines on people or things or objects or what have you, and those objects, Red Bull, those objects cast shadows in the cave. These people, they're bound in such a way they can't turn towards even the opening of the cave. So they look at the shadows and they associate names with those shadows. This is a person, this is a flower, but they're not actually looking at the things, they're looking at the shadows of the things.
Actually, now that you're telling me, I know about this.
Right? Yeah. So I'm telling you the story because I want to tell you the ending. तो by shadows and all those things, right? And then by some miracle or what have you, एक उनमें से बंदा जो होता है, he gets free. What the fuck am I supposed to do? So he turns towards the entrance and he leaves the cave, right? So the sun, which is supposed to represent knowledge and understanding and empathy and all those things, hurts his eyes.
Yeah.
Right? So he has to calibrate his eyes. पहले बहुत तकलीफ होती है ये वो, and then he's like, okay, fine. All right, and then he starts looking. He's like, no. So the shadow wasn't a dog. This is a dog.
Yeah.
This dog was casting a shadow.
Yeah.
That shadow.
His reality gets changed.
Yes, that shadow was nothing. This person is a person. That wasn't a person. That's nothing. That's a false idea. That's an erroneous judgment or what have you. So अब ये समझदार भाई हैं और इनको ये सब सच मिल गया था. Instead of जाहिलों की तरह, instead of going and living his life, ये वापस आते हैं केव के अंदर
बताने के लिए कि मैं क्या देखा है.
बोलते हैं कि भाई देखो, अगर मुझे समझ आ गया, मैं इतनी अच्छी हूँ, माया इतनी अच्छी है कि अगर माया को समझ आ गया through her knowledge and her experiences,
सबको
आ जाएगा. सब अच्छे होते हैं ना.
इसको बोलते हैं naivety.
हाँ जी, मैं कुछ बोलने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ. तो
I know exactly where you're getting at.
I'm just telling you Plato's allegory of the cave. मैंने क्या किया, तो उसमें जो है वो अंदर जाता है, भाइयों को बताता है, भाइयों बाहर तो ऐसा सीन है और सब अच्छा है और आप आओ, थोड़ी सी तकलीफ होगी लेकिन सब ठीक हो जाएगा. एंड ही इज लाइक उनके ये शैकल्स खोलने की कोशिश करता है. बिफोर ही कैन इवन अनशैकल देम, दे किल हिम. ये होता है. सही है ना? So I suppose.
Yeah, I never said this is an easy way to be.
No. I think you're right. It's definitely not an easy way to be.
But this is what it is like. And this I've experienced myself also, being this person where I'm like, all of a sudden your eyes open up and you want to tell all your friends, be like, yo, I found some truth.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to tell you,
Yeah, आप पागल हैं.
go have a nap, get something to eat, you're losing your mind.
Sure, yeah.
You know, and that's where you need to believe in yourself.
That guy did, and then they killed him.
They killed him, but चलो वो तो
थोड़ा extreme हो गया.
हम केव में नहीं रहते, शुक्र खुदा का, 4 लोगों से हम ज़्यादा हैं थोड़े, so we have some support like that. But that is exactly the reason why what I know, coming back and telling everybody that, hey, I found this, this is the truth, look at it, is the dumbest idea to do. The only thing I can do is, I've seen the truth.
Live the truth.
Now I need to live the truth. And उससे जो consequences जब खुलेंगे ना, खुद ही लोगों को नजर आते हैं. And that's not something that I'm going to let you question in any way, because that is what it is. When you see something, you can't deny it.
You know what's very, very interesting. Now, again, I don't want to upset anyone's sentiments.
I feel like our time also, like we've been talking for a while.
No.
Oh, cool.
We're not our time, yeah. Yeah, lekin, I think that idea is exactly the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I don't mean to upset anyone.
We don't want to bring religion in. We don't want to create that separation.
No,
at all.
absolutely not. Lekin, that's what it is.
That is. Kazi, let's close it with this one.
Yeah.
In the end, you know what it is about, really? More than anything?
Yeah.
It's about believing. It's about believing in those things that you knew as a child before you were polished into believing the things that the world has told you. That honesty with yourself, that courage that when you're a kid, you're willing to just jump off because you believe.
Yeah, failure is not a thing. Yeah.
That's what it comes back to. You want to learn, once you've learned how to believe, all of this conversation we're having, it becomes inconsequential. Because once you have that belief, the way you are, it changes.
Sorry.
And one of those things that comes from believing is understanding that when you're a believer, you're going to be one of the few. And when you have that acceptance, you're going to stop banging your head in walls. Because दीवारों में सर मारने से सिर्फ आपका खून बहता है.
सही.
And ये सच है.
सही.
I learned it the hard way.
So did I.
I think most of us do, to be fair.
To be fair, no one learns from anyone else's experiences. This has been wonderful, right? I really do hope that we do this again, inshallah. Khair se. Any final shout-outs? Anything? मतलब ये तो आपने बोल दिया. Anything else about your Instagram where people can find you? What have you?
Follow me on Instagram. Please make me famous for my artwork. We'll put a link down below.
In the description?
In the description box.
And in the short clips on Instagram
Ask
and
Kazi
Facebook.
to call me back for another one.
Yeah. Ji bilkul. Beautiful. Maya, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Of course.
This is wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me give you a shout out. Everybody click the subscribe button. Make sure that you like this video and give us a thumbs up.
Never do that.
It's not the YouTube thing. That's all the YouTubers do.
Yeah, everyone except me apparently.
Listen. How are we gonna get big?
I don't know. Allah Rahm karega.
If you don't ask, the answer is always no. I was telling you that in the car.
All right. You're
yes, click on the subscribe button.
Yeah, and the bell icon.
Give us a thumbs up.
Yeah. All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yeah.